Okay. Hello, my friends, and welcome to this very historic event in time. You're listening to the first Scenes on Toast Top Tens with Friends podcast, the podcast where we determine definitive top 10 lists for everything. Stuff that matters, stuff that doesn't matter, but we do it all. I'm Jack from Scenes on Toast, your host for this podcast, and I'm joined by arguably the most handsome Jack in this podcast, my good and lovely and beautiful friend, Jack Roden. Jack, how's it going? What's happening?
Hello, I'm alright. Just recovering from a good old fashioned bit of the lurgy. Not the new fashioned lurgy, right enough, but I'll be coughing and spewing and having great times with it. But I'm feeling great. I'm roasting because it's lovely and warm, and I'm enjoying it.
It's disgustingly warm. You know, I think like I'm in that camp of obviously people that, I mean, you can see from the video I am almost see through as pale. Like I get burnt just thinking about the sun, man. It's absolutely
burnt by the moonlight. It's just
the reflection of the moon, like on the water. You know what I mean? Grand. So right, what we're gonna start off by doing. So before we kind of talk about the topic that we're going to be doing the top 10 for, I'm going to ask you some pretty hard hitting questions because
okay.
and I don't want you to be alarmed, but this, you know, I mean, this will be on the internet forever. So really think about you know, your answers. All right. So no need to be alarmed, but maybe be alarmed. All right. So first question, arguably the most important, I would say, right? If you could only eat one biscuit or cookie for all of our American followers, what would that be? Like for the rest of your life? Like even if you were at a party and there was just a smorgasbord of biscuits on the table, like there's only one that you're allowed for the rest of your life. What is it? What is that going to be? What's happening with that?
Okay, so I'm gonna immediately dive into the controversy, and say, well, I would say a Jaffa cake, but it's not a biscuit sort of pattern. But also, I just wanted to actually just going back very slightly, the fact your use of the word smorgasbord there, oofed. That was just like,
am I using that correctly? I've heard it in movies. You know
you know that sort of way when you hear a word somewhere and you're like, oh shit, that's a class word, and then you just hear it, like you start hearing it everywhere after there. It's like, oh, okay, I guess I'm just kind of late to the party here. But yeah, no, I would say
are using it.
Well, that's exactly it. You know, that's what the Zoomers say nowadays. But yeah, I mean, it's got to be a Jaffa cake. I love Jaffa cakes. I actually was briefly allergic to Jaffa cakes when I was a kid, but it was like there was a before and after period of that, and I loved them before it. So it was like this heartbreaking childhood moment. My mum telling me I couldn't eat Jaffa cakes anymore.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I kind of want to delve into this because was there evidence that you were allergic, or was it just that your mum was like, we need to reel this in a little bit, and she was like, oh no, you're allergic? Like, you know what I mean?
We Jack's turning into such a fat bastard, man. I don't know. No, it was actually there was it wasn't like a sort of anaphylaxis thing. Like I wasn't getting tingly like how my mouth gets tingly with kiwis, but I like yeah, but you know, I like kiwis and they don't make me die, so I'm gonna keep eating them. But Jaffa cakes instead, like it was the orange in them. Like it made me it made like my mouth just go completely like all my tongue would get covered in like mouth ulcers and stuff like that, and I wouldn't be able to eat anything for ages. Yeah, it sucked. But like I suppose maybe it was my body's way of just sort of controlling the number of calories I had, because I would eat like an unholy amount of Jaffa cakes, then it wouldn't let me eat for a week.
Like, did you ever see at Christmas? I always get, you know, like the big massive like tube of them that's got like 100. Did you ever used to? I mean, I don't know if this is bringing up like bad memories for you or like, you know, like trauma, but
it's more just a genuine sadness that I've never had one of those like meters of Jaffa cakes, and that is, I guess that's all I want.
Like,
I mean, I've seen like a meter of Toblerone. Sorry, and you go.
Yeah, no, the Toblerone. See, again, this is, I'm sorry. I knew this question was going to absolutely just go into chaos. We could do a whole podcast on this, like, but like the Toblerone, like, I used to get that, and to be honest, I was like, I never said I liked Toblerone. I've never like I would never eat it normally, but it would just be there, and I'd be like, well, I obviously need to be thankful because this is an expensive bit of kit. But the yard of bloody of Jaffa cakes is next level. Like it's just
just ever since the mention of Toblerone, there was just this one image that's flashed to my head of like, did you ever see that thing where it was this guy who realized that you could get personalized Toblerones, and he realized that while he was like stoned at his gourd, and basically, and so like 3 days later, he kind of just got this Toblerone in the post, and it said to Bob Loern, which and there's like a photo evidence of that, and it is just beautiful. I actually took the time to learn how to pronounce that because it was just like a completely like messed up word of Toblerone, but to Bob Loern, from memory at least, is how it kind of came out.
I've not seen that, but that's
Well,
beautiful.
that is a sealed Jack meme recommendation for you there.
That's such a zesty meme. I like that. Big fan
A
of
little
that.
wax seal on that one.
Grand. Well, I think again, if we're commissioned for another podcast, which I'm sure we will, I think we're probably gonna have to do some more biscuit chat. I think that's probably might end up becoming a part of this show. But right, I'll give you another hard hitting question again.
Okay.
All right. So, which one am I going to give you? Right.
Oh.
Would you rather forget who you were or who everyone else was?
Well, I would rather forget who I was because then I'd have the pleasure of getting to know me, Jack.
Oh, stop that. Behave. Absolutely.
Do you know what? There was this little critical moment there when I was deciding on my answer of, do I be a prick? And like, there was absolutely just like
and you did it.
Yeah, it was the categorical yes. I just thought I can't just like do that half-heartedly. I really have to commit to being an arsehole. Which
and I appreciate that, and I'm pretty sure the listeners appreciate that. Yeah. So what's your thinking like behind that decision? Like, is that the actual reason, or is there
no? Actually, you know what? I said I'd commit to it. No, but I don't know. Like, I mean, forgetting who everybody else was, I guess there's like a really sort of I was about to reference a film, which I don't know if it's from the 90s. I actually genuinely don't know if it's from the 90s, but it might be. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. It seems 90s.
That's early 2000s. Early. But I know what you mean, though. It's got a very 90s, like,
quality.
Like, 90s cast and also a 90s feel about it, but I think it's, again, I might be getting this, I think it's like very early 2000s. I think also movie,
generally every time I see Jim Carrey in a film that I don't immediately think, man, this is bad, I'm like, this has to be from the 90s.
Like, yeah, you're right.
Or early 2000s. To be fair though, I haven't seen Sonic. Is that just the name of the film, Sonic? I haven't seen that, but apparently he's really good in that just because like he's very him in it. But like there's other ones, I can't even remember the name of it, but the one with the penguins, like that I literally there's one with penguins. Yeah, and like to be fair, when you say like one that's not, I mean, like when you say the film with the penguins with Jim Carrey in it, that is like a really specific description, but it summons nothing to anyone's mind. It does exist, I promise.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could exist. That's the thing. I feel like I was reaching into like the darkest part of my brain to know if I've,
Yeah.
But no, I've not watched it either, but I've actually heard it is pretty, especially after, when they released that initial trailer, and everybody was like, "What the hell is this fucking thing?" Like, this is disgusting.
I just really love that the internet were able to collectively cyberbully a studio into completely changing its film.
But then it's, I think it was also like, it was almost made me, again, there was also that there was the element of it where I thought, actually, I quite respect that they listened to what people were saying, and then they went and changed it,
Yeah.
and then again, but then there was also that way of like the internet did bully them into like this
Yeah.
this like multi-million-pound movie of executives and people memeing it on the internet and being like, "This Sonic looks like a hellhound." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
the eyes. It was like the little beady
It was the yeah.
eyes.
I think I like. I mean, that's the thing. I think that's the thing with a lot of sort of just general sort of live action adaptations in general. Like I mean, or I guess remakes in some senses, but like Space Jam's coming out soon. There was the Lion King that was remade, and there's good old fashioned Sonic. And if you're gonna go for like a cartoon in real life situation or like animal sort of thing, it can
Mm.
get really uncanny valley, especially in the
Yeah,
case of someone
yeah,
like Sonic, where it's like
yeah,
like he is objectively stylized and cartoonish. If you're going to make him look like an actual living animal, you are going to have
yeah,
nightmares about it for the rest of your life.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
horrifying.
You're
The
gonna have a
tiny
bad
beady
time, like.
eyes.
And I feel like that uncanny valley thing, because that was for I'd never heard of the uncanny valley until about 2 years ago, and then it made things a lot easier for me in terms of like knowing why something would make me uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Like
sorry,
I
just the
found
way you
that
phrased that.
like
It's like it was
because
resolving a lot of traumas for you.
well
Like,
it was because it's like you'd be feeling uncomfortable, say watching Sonic or Space Jam or some crap like that, and you'd be like, why? Or you'd be looking at a character and you'd be like, why does this make me feel uncomfortable? And then when I started learning about the uncanny valley, and I went down a dark rabbit hole of YouTube videos that really I shouldn't have gone down. And then again that's what you're right. And what they ended up doing was going back to making him look more cartoony and not worrying about what would Sonic look like in real life, because he's a fucking cartoon like hedgehog. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't need to like have like abs and look like Tom Hardy. You know what I mean?
I don't know, Jack. Sonic looking kind of
Speak for
sexy here.
yourself, like.
Oh man, do you know what I would have really liked to see though with their thing? I'm not gonna say anything about Sonic's genitals. I mean, like, see, like obviously the stylized version of him is got
Mhm.
like is like Disney's Cars in that he has one eye with two pupils, and that's deeply terrifying. I would love to
Yeah.
see like in life like photorealistic version of that, just to look at
Oh
it, and
no.
like that would have went so far the other way. Like you're stylizing it too much, guys. Please calm
It'd be like
down.
horrifying. It's like when you see those like ones where they make like I don't know like Peter Griffin in real life or something like that, and it just looks like the most horrifying
do you,
thing
do you,
in the
yeah,
world.
but
Like
it has just occurred to me how effective a horror character Sonic could be.
yeah, because he's I mean he's quick.
You are not running away from that
Yeah, well,
fucker. And
that's the
he is.
thing. I could imagine the scene that you're in, just this like abandoned, I don't know, fucking warehouse, and you just hear like in the echoes of like when he collects like a coin, and it's that like you just hear that in the
It's three
background,
rings.
and you know that he's coming, and you're like, and you think you're safe, and then or you're like hiding in a cupboard, and that scene where it's like. Or I can't remember which horror movie it is. You know the movie where like the hands come in front and they like clap. I can't remember that, The Conjuring or some shit like that. But
Yeah,
just like
it's
that, and
something like
Sonic's
that.
just like in your ear, and he's just like,
His big
like
gloved
I know
hands.
it. And he's like, gotta go fast. Like he's just like right in your ear, and then it's just like and then everything goes dark.
Anyone
I
who's
would,
married with like a ring on their finger
I
gets
know,
their entire hand amputated. Like,
I would all the money that I have and everything that I own, all the land I own, everything I would give to see that movie being made.
oh
Like, but
yeah.
being made by like Quentin Tarantino or something. You know what I mean? Like, just like I
Like
think.
really going full. Oh, can Samuel L. Jackson play Sonic?
He's like, you gotta go fast, motherfucker. Right. Do you know what? Again, what I've already started noticing about this podcast and what I love and which I imagine people will hate, but I love it, is that we started on a question of like, would you rather forget who you were or everyone else was? And somehow we have gotten to Samuel Jackson playing Sonic. And we're not even into the fucking topics of this. Like, and for me, this is, and like, if you're listening to this right now and you're like, what's going on here? It's going to get more like this. This is almost just, this is a taster. So I'm gonna again. We could have done a whole podcast on horror Sonic and biscuits. I'm gonna write that down actually, or I'll get my HR team to write it down or something like that. But what probably going to move on to now is actually explaining what the theme of today's top 10 is. I mean, it's already in the title, so it's not exactly a huge reveal. But if you didn't read the title and don't, like, if you're looking at this right, don't read it. Just like don't read it. We have went away into our little bedrooms on our little computers, and we have found what our favorite 90s movies are. So how this works is that myself and the handsome Jack have went away and picked our 7 favorite 90s movies. You know, with a lot of factors in there. You know, you're talking about nostalgia, you're talking about the actual reviews of the movie, just everything. And what we have now got to do is we've got to come together, compare those 7 movies, so 14 in total. We then have to whittle that list down to 10 because it's top 10s with friends. And then not only that, we are going to have to rank it from, 1 to 10 in terms of what is definitively the best. Because that's why you're here. You're coming here to find out what are the best. Not even to, just so you know, you're like, right, I don't have to bother with anything else from the 90s. Like nothing else. I just need to watch these 10 movies. And that's what we're here to do. So, and some of the rules are, so me and Jack, we're going to go back and forth, talk about our favorite movies. We each are allowed 1 veto. So after we do our 7 movies each, if say we do have 14 movies there, I'm allowed to veto one of Jack's movies and he's allowed to veto one of mine. Again, this might cause a bit of uproar, might cause a bit of upset. There might be tears, but after that, we then just have to collaborate and work as a team to get this down to 10 because, this is bigger than us right now. This is bigger than us. So, without further ado, I am going to ask the lovely Jack to talk about his very first. And also, I'll point out there may be overlaps. We might both have the same movie. That's fine. If we do have the same movie, we will just find another movie to plonk in there. We'll find, like, I don't know, Armageddon or something.
I got my little backup list in there.
Oh, that's when you know. That's when you know. Right.
That's when you know.
Okay,
right.
so I'm going to hold on to you.
I'm going to be as vague as possible in my description to this film, but I'm going to wait until you get it, so I might have to get less and less vague. So, okay. I want you to imagine, right? Just not in terms of me within the film, but me as a 14-year-old boy in real life. And I'm starting to discover my edgy side, right? And I start going around to people and I go, guys, have you seen this film? I can't really talk about it though. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's got a lot of sex and anarchy in it.
what
vibes are you feeling? What do 14-year-old boys get really, really loving and exciting about?
Cryptocurrency. And I don't know.
He's telling you he's not allowed to talk about it. That's one of the major ones.
He's not allowed to talk about it. So when you're so are you embodying a character from this movie or just like?
Oh no, I'm embodying someone who's just discovered this film.
Oh right, I am absolutely. I'm about 10 minutes behind all the listeners. All right, okay, right. So so it's a movie that's got a lot of. Are we going down the kind of the Tarantino?
No,
Valley.
It's. Do you know what? I wouldn't be surprised because the Tarantino Valley is a valley you enter as a 14-year-old boy as well.
Yes.
But this one.
Give me some more.
Okay, well, I'll rephrase one of my previous clues and just say that the first rule of it is that you can't talk about it.
Oh, Fight Club.
Yes! What an absolute film!
We did it! Okay, that's the show, folks. That's the show. Thanks a lot. Right? So Fight Club.
Fight Club. I love Fight Club. I actually only saw it I mean, I like obviously it's from the 90s. I'm a plastic 90s kid. Like I was technically born in the 90s, but I don't really remember any of it. So like, I mean, it took me a while to actually sort of catch up on this film, and everybody knew about it. But I just suddenly got really, really excited when I found it because it's got chemistry, as in like making bombs type chemistry, which is my favorite
Mhm.
type. I'm not a terrorist. I just really enjoy chemistry. Um,
I'll
um,
put a disclaimer. Like, just so you
um,
know, Jack is not a terrorist. Sorry, go on.
it's got cults. It's got political anarchy. It's got Brad Pitt in the 90s, which.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Um, I'm like, I don't know. It's just a really like I don't know. It was one of those films where I went into it not knowing the big twist, and like
Mhm.
I'm not gonna like. I mean, I will. I will refrain from spoilers, despite it being a film that is what like 30 years old.
I
Well,
think. Do you know what?
22
Right.
years old, but
I think that if the movie is before 2010, we can spoil it. Do it.
okay.
Do it.
Well,
But
yeah,
the spoilers here. If you do want to spoil it, I think because again, it's like 30 years ago. If you want to,
yeah.
it's up to you. It's up to you.
Well, in this, yeah. Well, do you know? In this case, I'll just say the big twist.
Okay.
I did not know that. Going into the film, and so
Mhm.
I was genuinely. It's one of those ones that everybody ruins for you before you've watched it. But I had some fresh eyes going into it, and
Mhm.
it blew my mind, especially when it sort of goes back and sort of shows you because it has that little sort
Yeah.
of almost like montage about how we were telling you the entire time.
Did you like because I'm quite similar to you, like I watched it probably quite late, for again, it's one of those ones where you knew about it in pop culture, you know what I mean, it was everywhere, but I had never seen it before, and then it was one of those ones where you do watch it and you're like, I see why every film student has a Pulp Fiction poster on it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Because it is just like it's such a like random idea, and it just works so well. And and again, the acting in it is just
Yeah.
I like. And do you know what? Do you know what my favorite thing about it is? Bloody meatloaf with tits, like just
Yes.
the best for me. As soon as I saw that, I was like, I'm sold. I'm sold.
I was genuinely. I remember when I was thinking of this film, I was like, I wonder how long it'll take for us to get to talking about meatloaf with
It's our
titties.
famous section, meatloaf with tits. You know?
Is it a food one? Is it a music one? Is it film? Who
You're gonna have
knows?
to
But
watch
we're
the
loving it.
movie. Yeah, you're gonna have to watch the movie to find out.
um, I also love that it also has that sort of requisite, like everybody who watch, or the vast majority of people who watch it, they're like, huh, this is a good film. And it's
Mm.
just because it's a good film.
Yeah,
But it kind of, you always go through that little requisite period of like, just after it, trying to go and ask people like, oh, I watched Fight Club recently. It's amazing. And people are like, oh, I no, I haven't seen it, and you go, oh no, but it's no
yeah,
actually
yeah,
like a boxing film. It's no like Rocky or whatever, which is like in its own right good. But a lot of time you're
yeah,
telling people like that, like no, it's not what you think. Because I went through the longest period of thinking it was just like a boxing film
yeah,
sort of
yeah,
thing. Like,
yeah. I think some movies like have this thing where they become a victim of their own success in terms of like, again, like you're saying, some people say to you like, oh, I can't believe you've not seen X, Y, and Z, and it almost has that instinctual thing to you of like, "Oh, I don't want to fucking see it now because like
yeah,
and I'm not gonna lie, I was like that with with Frozen because like now hear me out though, it's because like I first watched it with like my niece, and everybody been
Mm,
talking about it, and I was like, this movie is. I had the idea of like, this is a really annoying Disney movie. This is crap. And then I
yeah,
watched it, and I was like, this movie is actually very good, and the music is incredible. And it obviously became that victim of its own success. And I think that's
yeah,
something that ends up happening with movies like Pulp Fiction, probably movies that we're going to also talk about like
yeah,
along this as well. That you get so many people saying to you like, "Oh, I can't believe you've not seen Pulp Fiction," and
yeah.
I keep saying Pulp Fiction, and that's not the movie that you're talking about, and I do apologize. Um, you were talking about Fight Club. You
Per-
can see there's Pulp Fiction on the brain. I
yeah.
apologize. I apologize.
Is there perchance a reason why Pulp Fiction's
No,
on the brain?
no, no, no. But do you know what? I think that's a huge shout, and I mean, it's undoubtedly like you don't get. I feel like you don't get referenced in The Simpsons like 100 times if it's not something that is just an absolute pop
Yeah,
culture, like, and every comedy and everything that's happened. So,
yeah.
um, no, yeah, Grant. Um, any more kind of thoughts on it? Interesting kind of facts about it, or
Oh,
listen,
I do
listen.
have a general fact about it actually. Okay,
Yes,
drum
yes,
roll for my general
yes.
fact. Um,
Love it, love it.
and I can confirm this. I mean, not completely, I guess, but there is a difference. You know how in the film it's kind of goes through the whole sort of how to make nitroglycerin from soap thing, and it's kind of just like,
Yes.
haha, yeah, you do this, you do this. It's quite, simplified and like, don't tell the general public how to make nitroglycerin, please. In the book, no such caution is taken. Oh boy,
Do
it
they do
just
they just
tells
give
you.
you like the formula
here's
for it?
here's a recipe. Now I haven't confirmed this because I don't generally set out to make nitroglycerin and all that sort of thing, but it seems
That's
pretty
good.
legit. Like,
I never thought about that actually. Yeah, that because there must be. I imagine as well. What there must be like, um, there must be regulations on movies in terms of like if they are showing how to make stuff. Because I mean, again, listen, we live in the age of the internet where you can literally like you can find anything, which is quite scary. But like, I wonder if there is that sort of like restriction on movies where when they put restrictions on it and they're like, you can't give this formula away for how to make
yeah,
like something that's explosive. But then we're also in an age where you could probably find it as well,
yeah.
which is on like a
I think
TikTok or something.
I think that also though, just within the context of Fight Club, which is very anti-establishment, anarchist cult sort of
Yeah,
thing. Like I'm pretty sure there's a few folk out there who watched Fight Club and got like really obsessed with it, and like
yeah,
they.
yeah. It's definitely got those kind of vibes about it, doesn't it? Right. So first on the list, then we've got Fight Club, not Pulp Fiction. Fight Club. They are
Can I take a
different
guess at what
movies,
your?
everyone.
Can I take a guess at what your first film is going to be?
You
Is it
can, but
is it
it's
Pulp
not Pulp
Fiction?
Fiction.
Okay.
I've never seen it, mate. Never seen it. Don't even know what you're talking about. All right. So, I'm gonna take your lead, and I'm gonna try. I think you'll get this pretty quickly, right? This movie. So this is my like first one of mine was the first entirely computer generated animated feature.
Yes, you've got a friend in me, Jack. This
Mate,
is
mate,
yeah.
you're all right. You've got a mutual respect in me for sure. Yes, it is the one and only Toy Story, and
Absolutely
you know,
class.
I think it's one of my earliest memories. Like in terms of like sitting and actually watching something, I don't remember a time when I didn't know it. I mean, to be fair, right? I was born in 1994 and it came out in 1995, so that's not really that big a fact. But I just it just always has been in like my like zeitgeist. You know what I mean? And it's just always like everything about it was just I just loved it. Like and like I mean, for one thing, and again, I think that ratings on Rotten Tomatoes and all that is just absolutely shite. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't really matter. But one of the only movies to get 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Nice.
And again, like I said, the first entirely computer generated animated feature, which, I think we obviously take for granted now. Like, they're absolutely just spunking out these movies left, right, and center. You know what I mean? Like, people can make them in their, like, their homes. Whereas back then, for them to do that just the whole way through and for it to look obviously you go back and look at it now and there's a little bit jankiness, but there's also you look at it and you're like that does look. I think for the toys in particular I was like that looks great. Like I wasn't sitting there when I was like 10 being like this is real life. But
Yeah.
um and I think not only is the story just I don't know, just great. I think you've obviously got like incredible voice acting in there. You've got big home tanks and Tim Allen, vibing. Um, I do have a bit of a controversial opinion though, but I want to get what do you think about Toy Story first? What's your kind of thoughts and feelings? How do you feel about it?
I've got to say that's our first snap because Toy Story's on my list too.
Ooh! Ding 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 ding! I'll get a sound
Oh
effect. I'll edit a sound effect in here, like a brr, brr,
yes.
brr, brr, brr.
Yep. Okay. So what I am just gonna very quickly do is just point at one of my first backups because seven wasn't enough yet. The night is full of good films.
I know, I know, I know, I know, I know.
Yes, love Toy Story. Totally like one of my childhood films as well. My sister was also born in 1994, so she was right around that sort of right time. Then Toy Story 2 was in the 90s as well, which actually also surprised me. But
Oh yeah, so it
just as I
was.
was
Also a great
becoming
movie.
sentient, yes, but I think Toy Story as well, just because it booted everything like that to go. Like Toy Story 1, 2, and 3,
Mhm.
and then and then I didn't like 4. That's my controversial opinion.
Yeah,
But like
I wasn't a fan of it either. I was a fan, but yeah.
yeah, but I mean, I don't know, just it
Yeah, no,
because it changed cinema as well. Like I mean, like you say, it was the first fully animated film, and
mhm.
then everybody was like, starting to write notes and all that sort of thing. Like, and it spawned a lot of stuff. I mean, I mean, Pixar and DreamWorks also briefly had a battle, and DreamWorks. I love DreamWorks because they're very good at just sort of making films that are really, really good, and then making about 14 sequels that are really bad. But like, yeah, no, I think
Yeah,
it's a good sort
yeah.
of a vibe as Toy Story. That's a very good choice, very strong choice.
Oh yeah, because like I said, I'd have been surprised if it wasn't on there for you, just because again, I mean, and I have like, I don't know. Again, sorry, this is gonna be a shameful plug. I do a series on my YouTube channel, which is Toys from My Childhood. Yep, a grown 26-year-old man looking at toys, and I have like an original Buzz Lightyear and a Woody doll that we got when we were in Florida when I was like a baby, and I think back then it was like gold dust trying to get them because it was like, and my mum like brought him out from the attic and Woody was in there and I was like, man, that must have been you know what I mean, he was up there for about 15 years. Like I just wonder like what was if he's because obviously he exists for all the children listening. He is real and he exists. He's like Santa or um I don't know, the Grinch or something like that. And I sat and look at him and I was like, I wonder what's been going through his head being up there for so long. But yeah, so right, my controversial opinion though,
Oh
right?
yeah, desperate to hear it. Let's go. Let's go.
This is where we could lose a million listeners in one 20-second period, right? Woody, and this isn't a pun. Woody is a dick.
I mean, come on, you must have meant that a little bit.
He
You must have meant that a little bit.
he is not a good dude. And
Oh yeah, he's a shit boy.
like so he obviously he's walking about, obviously cock of the walk, sitting there like bloody how you doing, partner? I run this show, and then obviously Buzz Lightyear comes in, and I get he's got the kind of macho like my I'm very threatened here. This is my turf sort of thing, and and I get that, but when Buzz Lightyear comes in, right? He's obviously, threatening to maybe be a bit more interesting than Woody, but he's not threatening to like murder him. He's not threatening to like
yeah,
ruin his life. And I get that he's like, oh, Andy's playing with Buzz Lightyear a lot more than me, and that's obviously a big thing in the toy's life. But Woody retaliates by like trying to like murder him and getting rid of him. Like Woody is like a psychopath. And he should not be. It's like, again, I don't know if you've watched The Walking Dead before. Like, there's a moment where Rick, who's the big greasy lead guy, he like he's kind of like his arch is very like Woody actually because he's seen all his heroic, and then he just gets power hungry, and he's like, "This isn't a democracy anymore."
Yeah,
and yeah, so
like
I don't know how you feel about that, but that for me,
I have some trivia
Ooh!
related to that. Oh, very fancy, right? I'm actually your controversial opinion is absolutely spot on from my memory. Now I haven't got this written down somewhere. This is like someone from the cavernous depths of my juicy brain. But like, but, I actually think that originally Woody was supposed to be the main antagonist of the film. He was supposed to be like a complete bastard of a guy, and like some of that has lived on, and like
Right.
stuff like him chucking Buzz out the window and all that sort of thing. That's from like the sort of original drafts of him being absolutely terrible, and you can see it with some of the sort of
Oh.
animatics of it, like the very early animatics where it's just little drawings of them, and there's like a little bit of voice over it, and like Woody's terrible in it, like actively, like they don't even try and make him a protagonist. Like he is just a bad guy in it. And I can't remember exactly what the plot points were in that version of it, but I think that was the original version. So you're spot on with that sort of analysis with
that,
Woody
that
being a dickhead, because he
yeah,
is a
that
dickhead.
yeah, and it's not like, and he's also, from what I remember, he's a bit of a dick in the second one as well. Yeah, we have our first, Tyler, which is grand. As long as, again, at the end, if we have less than 10 between us, we would have to go to some like backup ones. But at the moment, we're still good. So, right, I'll pass it back over to you. What's your
All
next?
right.
Film?
Okay. So how about, I know this film to be like mega long.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's mega long. But like, I love it. It's inspired by a book, super super short. But in terms of like how much time it takes place over, it's like way long, especially for one character. Doesn't have that much change in terms of scenery, but despite all this, generally regarded as one of the greatest films of all time. Um,
Is
it's
it
a big hitter.
the Godfather? No.
Ooh, no, 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 not that. Although that
No, man, it's like,
I think that's actually considered to be just the best film of all time. This is one of them. This is
yeah,
like a delightfully ginger Irishman in the book
oh,
was replaced in the film with Morgan Freeman, and I do
oh,
love him.
bloody The Shawshank Redemption.
Gotta be the Shawshank Redemption.
And we
What
we
an
have we have collabed once again, because that is also one of my, again. You know what? Coming into this, I'll say that if both of us had come into this without saying the Shawshank Redemption, I think we would have had to like rethink. But yeah, sorry. After you.
just, I mean, totally fantastic film. I mean, there's a reason it's
Oh
one of the most one of the most acclaimed films of all time. So what? Tim
oh
Robinson and Morgan Freeman sitting in prison for multitudes of years. It's got like big escape plan, almost like it's sort of reminiscent of like Alcatraz and all that sort of thing. Like it's not like an
yeah yeah
Alcatraz
yeah.
film, but it's got that same sort of vibe with the way it's escaped. I mean, it doesn't have to like climb, doesn't have to get lost in like the, where is it, San Francisco Bay or whatever, but like, you know he gets out. It's just good. I think it's one of those films that's really
Yeah.
it's really like one of those genres of films that's really hard to nail. Like, I mean, how do you make being in prison
Mhm,
interesting? You either make the
mhm.
Shawshank Redemption, or I guess another thing that's done that really successfully is Orange is the New Black, but like took it in a completely different direction, but
Yeah.
also was super successful for it. um but I don't know. It's just one of those films that you watch kind of once every good few years. I don't know. Yeah, you watch it once every good few years, usually when you're ill. And you watch it, and
Mhm.
after you're kind of just like sitting staring at the wall for 10 minutes, like,
Yeah.
man.
You watch it and you remember, you're like, this is one of the greatest movies of all time. Like, it's just, and exactly like you're saying, like that genre, it's it's like that's very hard to write for and to make it interesting. And yeah, because it's a long movie, and like you're saying, yeah, in terms of the setting, you know, set over a long period of time, and I feel like the way it's paced is superb. Even though it's really long, you keep on going for it, and the characterization as well is just like
The
next
characterization,
level.
I can't remember the name of them, but how much do you end up hating the like main sort of prison guard guy, like the main
Oh,
guard guy?
oh, he
I hate
is.
him
Oh,
so much.
he.
You just want to batter him, but he'd kill you. But like,
Oh yeah,
but then
yeah. That's it. It's like he would absolutely wreck you. But like,
yeah,
I
like
know
I would
that's
want to
and
beat him up
yeah.
if he was tied to a chair and I had like a sledgehammer. Like
Yeah,
that's the
yeah,
only
yeah,
way I
yeah.
could
Or
win that fight.
we could like,
Like,
if the maybe I feel like maybe even if the both of us, but then even then I think
yeah,
he's
I
got a
think he
baton
could
as a mate, so
2v
he could
one.
probably
He's got a baton
yeah
and
yeah
an absolute
yeah
lack of fucks to
2v1
give.
on Rust like
He's just kind
yeah
of like,
I thought
I
yeah
will like not hesitate to kill you. Like he will just, he has no holds to it. Like, I think it's just one of these films that has such a perfect sort of sense of catharsis. Like I think like, I mean, obviously
mm,
when he escapes, huge amount of catharsis there, but even stuff like like when they're retarring the roof and they've just finished it, and Andy manages to
Oh,
convince the guards to get them all a beer, and they're all
oh,
just sitting, and it's that sort of moment. Oh, I love that. I think someone actually once said that that was like reminiscent of like the Last Supper, because Andy is, he's sort of uh, is almost like an allegory to Jesus in a lot of ways. And I personally don't see that, but film analysis. So
I feel like there's people that seem to get the Last Supper into every single bit of like movie.
yeah,
There
I
will be
think
a Last Supper like connotation with Fight Club. Some, you know what I mean, there'll be,
yeah.
but I totally get like that scene on top. And I was literally about to say it, like that scene when they're sitting there and the sun's going down and they have beers that just look like the tastiest, most refreshing
They've
thing.
managed to make them like tastier.
Like they probably taste like shit. Like they're probably
I
like, you know what
wonder.
I mean?
I don't- you
Like,
know how they use all sorts of film magic to make stuff look a certain
mhm,
way in a film.
yeah,
It was like, I wonder what they actually do that, because like, I mean, I'm sure those beers weren't
yeah.
naturally that ridiculously frosty. Like, I used to do
No,
a bunch of
like
extras work, and like, I remember it was snowing one time. They got those things that were like signal flares almost, and they lit it and they just started
mm,
shaking it, and it was just like thick heavy snow, and I was like, this is the coolest
ah,
thing ever, I want one of them.
yeah. Yeah, I wonder how they, because I think I mean obviously the scene is bigger than like I'm really like cavemanifying this of like those, did you see those beers like they were, but I think everything every everything about that, no, you're right, everything about that scene, just the way it's blocked,
Mm,
there's not even that much like dialogue in it either. There's obviously the monologue, but like, and even the big bastard, like what you call it, a big bastard prison guard, even he's like
aye.
had a bit of a sort, even though he's still a dick, and it just really summed up that kind of, I don't know, because the whole movie, obviously, there's that overwhelming feeling of like hope. That's what, that they're trying to, like, that hope of perseverance and stuff, and
Hmm.
it's just because it's there's parts in the movie that are quite difficult to like watch and see, and I don't know if you I get very uncomfortable seeing people get like beat up in movies, like, not like, see if it's like a Marvel movie and it's just like bloody Thor like smacking like a robot about or something, that's
Yeah.
fine, but when it's like very visceral and it's like Andy Dufresne's getting like beat up by like that like kind of gang, it really, like,
Hmm.
I find it really hard to watch. I think because it's not like, it's not like this science fiction movie. It's like a real thing, and I find it quite hard to watch. So I think having
Yeah,
that
that shit happens sometimes,
that in the middle kind of is like, it makes you like, oh, okay, things are getting a bit better, and then he probably gets like beat up or something again. But and then that scene where he's like in the water after he's escaped, and just again, I think the acting in that is some of the greatest. Like, you feel like you look at Tim Robbins and you're like, I feel like he has literally just climbed through like a mile of shit because he just looks so relieved to be out of it. Like, it's incredible.
Well, to be fair, if he's so relieved, he could maybe be the jobby going through the intestines that way, and he's finally free. But, the thing is, as well, also the one thing I do love about that scene, I do kind of like, I love it, like cinematically fantastic. But see, something one thing that kind of like made me go, oh, about that is, if I escaped prison, right? And I've just climbed through literally a mile of shit, and then I fall into a pool of shit, and it's raining like thunderstorm, and I'm also like, I can see the prison in the background. If I just kind of stand with my
Yeah,
arms wide open looking up, I'm kind of like,
yeah, you're running.
that's cool. Yeah, I'm running, but also like, what's he doing? Is he just kind of standing there going,
Yeah, but then I suppose, yeah, just wafted it in. But then I think it's probably also that moment of like, because you don't really know what you would do in that moment. It's like those moments of like, what would you do in the moment if you, like, I don't know, like you scored like the winning goal in the World Cup or something. You know what I mean? It's like you don't know
standing
what your
still,
brain's
just
going to, standing in like a heap of shit, just like yeah,
Gary Lineker style, man. Like,
yeah. No, but it's like it's undeniably and undoubtedly one of the greatest movies of all time. It's one that when anyone asks, if someone asks you what's the greatest movie of all time, it's one that just instantly comes to mind. So I'm glad that we're on the same board as the same. And also something that interested me about that. So that had a hard time in its release because it came out in the same year as Forrest Gump and another movie called Pulp Fiction. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Oh,
Um,
maybe.
so it actually was like it bombed at like the box office because it was just, and then obviously it then grew this just
that,
you know.
that is one of the few facts I did actually research.
Way!
Yes. So you're telling me that, and you know how like when you're like you've done an exam and you're like, and it's an exam, you're just like, I should have done a bit more for this, and then you get that one question, and you're like, oh, I know this one, and you're just like buzzing at it. That's that sort of
and
same
then
energy I had there.
and then I'm just sitting there like, I'm gonna, but no, like, uh, yes. So I'm glad we are in comparison with that. So again, I think we're probably gonna have a few more that are combining. So we've got three on the board so far. So we've got Toy Story, we've got Fight Club, we've got Shawshank Redemption. Right, I'm gonna
Yes,
go.
indeed.
Oh, that sound, beautiful sound,
Oh
beautiful
yeah.
sound. Um, okay, so my second one, and this is maybe at first I thought, is this nostalgia? But then I went and watched it and I was like, this is great. So, that's right. Let's see if I can give you any clues to get it. Um, oh, see, I'm not as good at thinking up clues as you. Right. In terms of actors, right? We're talking we're talking big Brendan Fraser. Okay, big boy Brendan Fraser.
Oh, is
We're
it whether
talking
are we already in? Are we already? Okay, sorry. Yeah, yeah. I've
we're,
got
we're
I've got
talking
a little thread.
we're
Okay.
talking we're talking Rachel Weisz. All right, we're talking, you know, we're talking deserts. We're talking
Mm-hmm.
curses.
We
We're
talking
talking.
Scarab Beetles. We
We
talking
are.
sequels with really
You,
plastic CGI The Rocks.
you listen. You know where we're going. We are talking the original, the first, the Mummy. Right
Yes.
now, I know that for some people, they'll be like, how on earth can you be piling this in with, a top 10 when we're talking about, Shawshank Redemption and Fight Club? But hear me out on this one. So it came out in '99, so it just made the grade. This
uh,
movie was just so fun, and that's honestly I
yeah.
know that doesn't sound
Just
like a very.
crazy.
It was watching it when I was younger, and even watching it now, I was like, this is an absolute bloody hoot and a half. Like I was like, this is just the the the. I think first and foremost, like the chemistry between Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz is great. Like
yeah.
they actually look like two people who genuinely fall in love and actually like each other, not just like two
Yeah.
actors that are going on and getting paid for a job. Um,
Uh,
I think even the first one, obviously not the second one, but the first one, CGI wise, actually still kind of holds up. Like
yeah.
there's some stuff that's a bit janky, but like the stuff like where the scarab beetle is like underneath the skin. That
Yeah.
is just
Yeah. Oh, that I remember actually that just gives me such a visceral it's been years. It has been many, many, many years since I've watched that film. Like I was sub 15.
oh
And so yeah, so it's been absolutely years since I've seen it. But every time that I'm just like, oh yeah, the mummy, that was a good film. And then somebody just says the scarab beetle thing, and I just see
yeah.
this wee blob of wee mouse of skin that's like rubbing it. Oh, I hate that man.
I, I think that they managed to get that delicate balance between. Obviously, it was meant to be for kids, but
Mm,
there's also those elements of because I was scared watching it as a kid. I was like,
yeah.
that's scary shit. I don't want to be involved with that. But I also wanted to be involved with it because I was like, this is very entertaining and I'm enjoying
Yeah.
what's going on. But I would say it was a few steps away from end up, being made into I don't know what the ratings were back then, like a PG-13 or whatever, because I think it was obviously a little bit bloodless because it had to be, because again, to make it
Yeah.
a PG, but there was obviously some scenes in it that were just absolutely like Imhotep when he first kind of comes out and he's all just bony and and when
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's the first one where he rips the guy's eyes out and uses his eyes, and then you see him without his eyes and you're like,
Oh,
oh
yeah.
yeah, this is a kids
Just these
movie.
wee caverns.
And a couple of things that I thought of. So, firstly, right, this movie, they didn't expect it to be a hit, right? They were just kind of like, that was at the time when I think it's Warner Brothers who made it. They were like, listen, just go do whatever you want, just throw money at it, it might do well. And it it was such a big hit that on like the first day of its release, because it was so popular, they commissioned the second movie. Like they didn't have any plans for the second movie, and then when they saw like after the first day, like how many people went to see it and how loved, they were like, we need another one, like right now, like yeah, we need another one yesterday. You know what I mean? Um, and another thing that I noticed when I was watching it, right? So obviously Rick O'Connell, who I think is the right balance of cool, clever, and dumb. Right? It's the
Right.
lovely love,
Okay.
and I know, but it's fair. I think it's the right balance that you don't hate him, you don't love him, you're rooting for him, you know, and you're just like, yeah, I quite like this guy. I quite like this guy, but at the start of the movie, he is about to get hanged in prison, and it's not really alluded to what he did, right? So my worry is, I've always wondered what was it that he did
Yeah.
to end up in that prison and that he was going to get hanged. Like, what did he do? Did he murder someone? Did he, did he walk on the wrong side of the road? Like, did he what did
I
he
bet he was like
what did
I
he do?
I bet it was like absolutely like see just I like just for my head canon here, I kind of want to believe he was an absolutely despicable serial killer. Like ab- absolutely like we're not talking like it was maybe like a questionable self-defense murder. No, we're talking like
Just
15
like
people
stab it.
completely yeah like 15 people like completely mutilated, their organs were turned into streamers, he's got their hoods in the fridge, like like we're talking proper like Ted Bundy level complete psychopath. And do you know what, that actually adds like a little flavor to it.
I think, yeah, it's like, yeah, and I think that's why, Rachel Weisz has got the whole like, oh, you're mysterious. Like, I like that. I
I
like
sure
that
am.
about people. Whether I know whether I know if they've murdered. And also, again, sorry, last fact about it. In the scene where he gets hanged, he actually got hanged, like in that scene by accident, and he suffered like a major injury in his back that he had to go and get like multiple surgeries, and he was choked for like he was because normally they would do the thing where they've got like a harness on the back, I think, for like hanging. It like snapped, so he was actually getting hanged. And because again they were like, "Oh wow, he's doing really good acting here," like, and he genuinely, and that's genuinely true. And he's talked about it how like he suffered so many injuries doing that, and
Wouldn't
that
you
like
like see just from a health and safety perspective? Like, I know you've got the harness and stuff like that, but like, why would you actually attach the rope at the top? Like, wouldn't you just
yeah,
sort of leave it
yeah,
like a little loose hang, or like make it
yeah,
look
a
like
little
it's
bit.
attached?
It's like a little bit of just a little bit of danger, a little bit of spice,
Yeah,
but like,
like,
yeah.
yeah.
So, but that's so
Just a little bit of danger, and he's sitting there and like,
yeah,
like
yeah.
really, really horny, and just like,
I mean, yeah, I mean that's a different list altogether. But like, yeah, so for me, the mummy's in there just because I think it encapsulates that kind of silly, you know, action filled, funny movie that I don't think they've ever quite recaptured. Like, I think it was the closest thing that they had to like an Indiana Jones since, like Indiana Jones when it was good. You know what I mean? Like that sort of fun adventure. And then obviously it went downhill. But I just thought that was a very fun movie. And I was like, that's great. And I love big serial murderer Rick O'Connell,
yeah.
Love him. All right. So moving on, what have you got next on the list? What are we talking?
Um, with this one, Jack, I will simply present to you a reading, an excerpt.
Ooh, from the
Um,
Bible?
uh, I'm gonna read a psalm now. Um,
Yes.
we're getting Jesus in here.
Yeah,
No,
boy.
I'm just gonna feed you a little bit of it. I'm not gonna be able to perform it as well as the actor did, but I hope you know it
Okay.
comes from the heart. Okay.
Yeah, I believe you.
It's shite being Scottish! We're the lowest of the low! The
Yes!
scum of the fucking earth!
Yes!
The most wretched, miserable, servile, pathetic trash that was shat into civilization! Some people hate the English, I don't, they're just wankers! We, on the other hand, are colonised by wankers! We can't even find a decent culture to be colonised by! We're ruled by the effete arseholes! It's a shite state of affairs to be in, Tommy, and all the fresh air in the world wouldn't make any fucking difference! Have you got any guesses?
Give this man an Oscar right fucking now. Well, I mean that it's quite obviously Pulp Fiction. No, train spotting, which is what I have as well. I also have train spotting on mine.
We're going to have a total of
And I
7
think,
films.
oh yeah, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. But I also, and I would like to point out, there's obviously that there might be that bias that we're both Scottish, but it's an incredible movie.
It is. It is an absolutely fantastic movie. In fact, I believe it was voted one of the in one vote. It was voted the best British film of all time, and in other times they were. It was voted. It was voted amongst the best British films of all time. And fair enough. Interesting wording, but I like it. It proves a point. And like it's brilliant. I think also one of the things that I remember watching that quote the other day because it really does resonate deep in my bones. And like one of the first comments about it, in fact, I say one of the first, all of the comments are all talking about how what's happened to Obi-Wan Kenobi, man, and which I really, really
That's what I've written down. I've got written that down, man. I've literally written. I've written down. Obi-Wan did really well to turn his life around. You know what I mean? That was one of my notes that I had down. Like
that was him as a Padawan when he just had a bit too much. Like he was not really a good youngling. But I mean, it's a brilliant film. I think it's one of those. I really enjoy films that are not scared to just be completely and utterly depressing. I love that.
yes.
Like also in a sort of funny way, but like I mean, it's I mean the thing that I think is so incredible about it is the fact that there's so many like one of the main sort of qualities of a protagonist in a film is that you've got to relate to them. And for most people, it's fairly hard to relate to somebody who's addicted to heroin. That's a difficult thing to do, because generally people aren't addicted to heroin, and but it's something that you can you do just relate to Renton on such a massive level, and everything's performed so well. I love Begbie, despite me also thinking that wow, if he was a real actual person, man, he's just the worst guy. Oh man, it's brilliant. It's just one of these films that one of the things that I really like about it as well is it's kind of one of these films where like most films you watch it has a story start to finish, and obviously Trainspotting does as well, but it kind of feels like you're just getting a wee snapshot of their lives, which I really, really like. I think there's something so like it's obviously not a documentary. It doesn't feel like a documentary, but it feels like real people, and I really, really like that.
Yeah, it's terrific. Like and I think I mean, obviously it's kind of based off who is it that wrote it? Was it Irvin Welsh? Is it like
Irvin
his
Welsh.
kind of books? Is it that it's kind of,
yes?
But it's I think when I was going to make my notes about it, I was exactly what you said there. I think it's not afraid to go into just some really dark, really deep places, and it's looking at stuff that it was happening. You know what I mean? And it was shedding light on, obviously it's obviously got the dark comedic tone, but it has those seriously dark undertones in it, and it was shedding that look on the life of someone who is addicted to heroin, and obviously showing the different. Obviously, there's obviously the different people that it follows, and it was. Oh, sorry. No, on you go. No, on you go. On you go.
I was just going to add, like, also just the sort of different emotional sort of states you would be in with that, because obviously I don't think anybody who's addicted to anything is super happy about it, but like also it's an addiction to heroin. He's got like heroin, and so whenever he's talking
Yeah,
about it, there's just that sort of like, oh, it's like this. It's like, take I can't remember the exact quote, but something like, take the best orgasm you've ever had and multiply it by 1,000, and you're still not there, sort of
yeah,
thing. And it's just kind of like, it's
yeah,
almost like, huh. Sounds pretty good actually, but like,
yeah,
it
yeah.
also
No,
it does a good job at making you go, okay, yeah, no, I don't want to try it though,
yeah.
um,
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's yeah. It's not like it's not like a movie that's like an advertisement for going and doing heroin, but it really does. It takes you through everything that comes with that sort of lifestyle, and especially, I mean, there's scenes in it that are very difficult to watch and might be a bit triggering and stuff like that, but
Yeah, one of the most surreal things. One of the most surreal things I've done to do with film is that, like I say, I used to do a bunch of extras work, and one of the ones I did, in fact, the very first one I did was Train Spotting 2.
oh, I remember that in the
Um,
nightclub. Was that the
yeah,
nightclub?
yeah,
I think,
it
yeah,
was it
yeah,
was the
yeah, yeah,
nightclub I was in, and so it was funny because I met both Ewan McGregor and Bobby Carlyle at that point, and it was cool. Like the whole experience was cool, like start to finish. But like it was so jarring, like seeing not just Bobby Carlyle but him in character as Begbie, and then like he'd
yeah.
be like, "All right, man, are you okay?" Like I think I was like coughing a bunch. He's like, "Oh, do you want me to get something?" and all that sort of thing, and I was just like, huh? Like, shouldn't you be like
Yeah, yeah.
shouldn't you be like converting my face to lasagna or something
Knifing
like
me.
that? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no,
Oh,
it's
that's
just
cool.
it's
So
just
you're
wild.
so we've yeah, I remember that call for extras because I remember like my person I've seen at the time went and did it as well. Um uh but yeah, it's just brilliant, and it's also like it's a movie that is considered like, because I was always wondering, like, outside of the UK, like, how is it revered? Is it like seen by anyone? And when I was like living in Canada and America, I'm a very well traveled man, and they all heard of it and they loved it, and it was like, so this is obviously something that, and I think when you watch it as someone who's Scottish, there's also, again, like the thing that you just like the scene that you rattled off at the start beautifully, I might add. The amount of times I see that cropping up every couple of years when Scotland just gets shafted by,
Oh yeah,
again,
yeah. Every time we play
yeah,
football.
yeah. I mean, don't want to get too political here, but when we get just shafted in every sense,
Well,
and
that's fair.
it's almost like that is a perfect scripture for just like, I see it. Someone will post the video and it'll be the
It's like,
caption of like when Scotland get knocked out the Euros, or like
yeah,
when Scotland get ripped out of the EU, or like something like that, and then it's like, I
yeah.
shite being Scottish.
I mean, it's brilliant. I think also that should be just the Scotsman's Lord's Prayer. I think
Yes,
that's
yeah, yeah,
kind of
yeah,
just.
yeah, for sure.
I don't think I've ever known anyone who doesn't like, if like if they're watching it for the first time or just know they've got, they're just kind of like, yeah, nah, there's not a thing I have a problem with in there.
Yeah,
it's great.
no,
I love it.
I mean, that's, again, I'm glad that that one's in there, and that's another one. So now on the board we have five, comparatively. So fingers crossed we get another five. But right. So my next one I'm going to go for, this, in my opinion, is, and again, this might be a bit controversial saying it. This is, for me, the greatest gangster movie of all time. And I'm not really that into gangster movies. I think because there was just so many made, and it was all the bloody same thing happening over and over again. And it's like, I've seen Robert De Niro in about 20 movies, but this was, for me, when I watched it, I was like, this is one of the greatest movies and the greatest gangster movie of all time.
I right. Okay, so confession, regardless of which it is, I haven't seen it. I've
Okay.
not even seen The Godfather. I have not seen many gang films. But
Wow.
am I right in saying Goodfellas?
You are, ding, 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 ding. You are correct, sir.
Yes.
Yes. Uh,
Yes.
I would
I had to have a wee
honestly
clarity.
say, I only watched Goodfellas for the first time like 2 years ago.
All right,
Like, and
okay.
that's what it is. I think it's very similar to what we were talking about with Fight Club. It's one of those ones where everybody's like, "You've got to watch Goodfellas. You've got to watch this."
Yeah.
But Jack, I'm going to tell you something right now. All right, I'm gonna
Okay,
get
hit me
close.
with it.
I'm gonna get close to the camera, right? You need to watch Goodfellas, right? like, like, like I, because I was a bit intimidated beforehand. Like, oh my god, this is like such a long movie, and there's so much in it.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's just, and
Is
again,
it good, fella? Sorry, I'll let you continue.
uh, it's
I'm not gonna pretend like I like. You know what? You can
Are you
try
proud of
and
yourself?
shame me. Yeah, you
Are
can
you
try
proud of
and shame
yourself?
me into not liking that joke, but I am extremely proud of myself.
Like, I can just hear the people switching this off right now and just being like, "This
I've
that
just
was maybe
I've
from like."
sabotaged your entire career.
Well, that's it. It's like, like just all of my sponsorships, all the millions of TikTok pounds I'm making, all my cryptocurrency just gone. Um, but no, so Goodfellas. Listen, I would sit and describe the plot to you, but it is so long that I don't think I could. But what I will say is that, I mean, in terms of looking at my notes, right? Again, greatest gangster movie of all time. The characters within it are just so compelling, and it's just so
Yeah,
exciting, and it's got everything in it. It's obviously got like the action, it's got sadness, it's just got, I don't know, it's that way again. It's kind of similar to Trainspotting in the way of like, you're at the start kind of rooting for this character who
yeah,
is inherently not a good person. Obviously, at the end of being like an addict doesn't make you a bad person. It's not
mm,
that sense, but the stuff that he does in Goodfellas, he's a bad person. Like,
yeah,
he is instead, he is not a good guy. But
yeah.
you still, even when it gets near the end, you're still hold on to it, and it's again the writing and like the acting in it um is just phenomenal. And you've obviously got all the big boys in it. You've got bloody you've got De Niro in it. I've even got a note saying big bad Joe Pesci is
Oh
how you say it?
yes,
He is
I
just, he's so fucking good. Like, and in that, he's just, there's one scene that I think and you've probably seen it. There's like a meme of it's like the guy laughing like hysterically, and they're all in suits, and it's like a big meme, and it's from Goodfellas. And in that scene, Joe Pesci is like, um, he's like telling this joke, and everybody's laughing at it, right? And then Joe Pesci turns to the main character, and he's like, "What's so funny?" And Joe Pesci's like, "Oh, no, no, no." The character says to Joe Pesci like, "Oh, you're so funny." And Joe Pesci turns to him and is like, "What, funny like a clown? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean I'm funny?" And then the guy's like, "Oh, no, 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 I just mean you're really funny." And he's like, "What do you mean I'm funny? Am I a clown? Am I a fucking joke to you?" And he just gets like so scary, and you can see the guy's face like, "Holy fuck!" And then Joe Pesci just starts like laughing, and that scene is just so fucking incredible because Joe Pesci, you genuinely are just like, this guy is like, he could just turn around and just like batter you, like just knife you in the face. And
I've
it
got
was,
such I've got such an appreciation for people I see in films, not so much in real life because I'm deeply intimidated by them.
yeah,
But like people in films who I look at and I could go, they could snap me in
yeah,
half.
yeah,
They could
and
just kill
yeah,
me as if it's
and he,
nothing.
and he's like, he's a small guy. I mean, again, like nothing to do with like height, but he is, he's a smaller guy, but he is so. And I watched again. I go down YouTube rabbit holes at like 11 o'clock at night when I should be sleeping, and I was watching a video where this like former mob guy was rating like gangster movies and mob movies, and he was talking about Joe Pesci, and he was saying like Joe Pesci is the greatest. Um, he's the greatest and greatest example of what mob guys are really like. And he was also saying, I think Joe Pesci, when he was younger, must have been involved in this somehow, because you don't get that good at like acting it if you weren't like. And he did grow up in that sort of like time in those areas, which I think is probably extremely high praise. And it's so funny because you're sitting there thinking like, has Joe Pesci killed someone? Like, you think he's probably seen shit,
Is
but
yeah.
it's incredible movie. Love it. Big bad Joe Pesci. And they've tried to replicate. I think they've tried to replicate Goodfellas, particularly if there was one that came on Netflix called The Irishman a few years ago.
Yeah.
It was like fucking 7 hours long, heap of shit, just trying to replicate. And listen, I might have just thrown out our like Netflix sponsorship. But you know what? I don't care until they give me my own, show and they pay me, and then I'll say good things about them all the time. But yeah, so Goodfellas, and again, so I think that's the first one we came to where one of us hasn't seen it.
Yes.
Which is also it might be a bit of convincing for me to try and get it into the top 10. So I've got some backup stuff on it, but yes, so that is Goodfellas.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because if I have to use my veto, so far that would be.
And you're gonna veto You're gonna veto Big Bad Joe Pesci. He's gonna come around your house, mate. He's gonna come around your fucking house. Kicks through the door. All right, what's the next one you got? Throw it at us.
Right. Okay. So I am going what we would call balls deep into just straight up action here.
Love it.
Like not quite 80s action, because fun fact, this film was released in the 90s. But I'm getting really descriptive about them now, aren't
I? Great.
But we've got I guess like the internet's newly adopted dad running around answering phone calls and hacking shit until somebody's like, hey mate, here's an existential crisis, and then he gets really fucking good at kung fu.
Are we in Die Hard territory?
We're not in Die Hard territory.
Holy shit. Ooh. Okay, so it's not Die. So
the internet's dad has he gets introduced to an existential crisis, but it's a hell of an existential crisis because it's real. And then he gets really good at kung fu. In fact, he gets really good at kung fu instantly. And he looks up and he goes, I know kung fu.
Does he actually say that?
He does.
Oh my god. Holy shit. I'm blanking.
Keanu Reeves, Lawrence Fishburne.
Oh, bloody. Point Break? No.
The Matrix.
The bloody Matrix. The bloody Matrix. How did I not get that? I'm sorry. Right before you start, I'm gonna have to tell you something, and I want you to be sitting, and I want you to be ready. For what I'm about to say. All right. Mm-hmm. I can't even really say it. I have never seen The Matrix.
You know what?
Just get the fuck out of my face. Let's
go. As much as it does make me want to just kind of take over the podcast and kick you out, it also kind of serves me right for not having seen Goodfellas. So this is good.
Yeah, it evens it out.
We're level in the playing grounds. Now it's my turn to get, I guess, close to both the mic and the camera. Although, just dear watcher, if you're watching, I have a really precariously balanced VR headset as my camera, so you gotta watch The Matrix, Jack. I'm sure the wide angleness of that really, really was just delightful to your face. Oh God, I'm not going to get this back to normal. Okay.
I should also say, I'm going to point out to the listeners, because we did acknowledge at the start, that's the reason that Jack's camera has two lenses on it, because it's like a VR set, so it's got.
You can watch this in 2.5D, because I'm in 3D, but you're in 2D. So we've got kind of you can be sitting 2 feet away from me watching Jack on a screen, and I've got to say, based on how the fact that it was 27 degrees today where I am, you don't want to be sitting 2 feet away from me.
No,
it ain't good.
No.
It's not fun. No. But yes, anyway, The Matrix. Jack, you haven't seen it. Well, the existential crisis that he did have, of course, turned out to be real, because, spoiler alert, for you as well, Jack. But come on, this film is 22 years old.
I feel like I know everything about it without seeing it. One of those movies where you can know as much as you can about just through everything, like pop culture and stuff like that.
I mean, it's good as hell. The world is not real, of course, because humans are batteries. And I could get into a really just exceptionally specky conversation about thermodynamics, about how that wouldn't work. But I'm going to avoid that, and instead just talk about how fucking cool it would be to be able to just plug a fucking guitar jack into the back of your brain and just download kung fu black beltness, or like how to fly a
Yeah.
helicopter. Just that is what we need. Like, I mean, that I guess, like, theoretically possible in the future and all that sort of thing. But I want that now. I want to just be able to just be like, okay, I now have the mental ability to play football like Lionel Messi. I just need to try and get the rest of my body up to scratch in that, because I will break some limbs. But
Yeah.
like, I mean, that shit's cool. I think also it's just one of those films. It's definitely one of those films where, in fact, here's a fun fact at the back of my brain. Someone did commit some murders, and it's because they thought that it wasn't real because they were in the Matrix. I mean, this
Oh.
person was like, that sort of reasoning is not the reasoning of a person who is like mentally stable. Fair
Yeah, yeah,
enough.
mentally
I
stable.
think
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
think
yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think they
yeah.
were maybe kind of in a position where even if this film hadn't come out, they were still not in a fantastic place and may have done that sort of thing anyway. But it's definitely
Yeah.
served as a catalyst. But like,
Yeah.
man, it's good. Oh god, actually, I've just thought of another really cursed thing that it's produced. The fact that it's the blue pill and the red pill, and then you've got all the incels who are talking about how they've taken the red pill now, and it's like, oh, good. But I mean,
Oh, yeah.
that's just a thing. We pushed them to the side. But like, I mean, The Matrix is just I honestly, I can't recommend that film enough. In fact, another fun fact about it was that they were able to they were they got a huge budget for the film, or a relatively huge budget for the film given the concept, um, and they spent the Wachowskis at the time spent, I think it was like like, if not the majority, then all of the budget they were given with like the first scene of the film, just so that they could sort of send it as a pilot to the studios to be like,
Yeah.
can we have a lot more money, please? And it worked.
Yeah.
It worked, and
Yeah.
it's great, and it's one of these
Yeah.
sort of ones where the CGI in it hasn't aged badly. And I think it was maybe like a sort of maybe that's like a resourcefulness thing. Like, I guess if CGI is kind of janky in the 1999 when this is made, then you use it really sparingly, and you use practical effects when you can, and then when you can't, you're using it kind of just as a little bit of a thing. But then there was this sort of like blurry area in the early 2000s where they're like, we can use it for anything now, and you look back and you go, oh no, you couldn't. Um,
From what I understand, it was like a pioneer of CGI. Like, a lot of the stuff that they did then was just groundbreaking. Like you say, it was like
totally.
it was from that like lack of they were restricted, so they had to do all this stuff, and like they managed to, and like you're saying, it then created this thing where a lot of movies were like, oh, we can just use all the CGI. It's like, you can, but you shouldn't. You know what I mean?
Yes.
There's a difference between can you and should you, and
Yeah.
that definitely blurred that. But yeah, no,
What
yeah,
what I would say is, if you haven't seen this film, which you haven't, then if you want one reason, if you want one reason to go into it, it would be just for the character that Hugo Weaving plays. Because Hugo
oh yeah, the
Weaving,
agent guy.
yeah, Agent
Is it?
Smith,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, he, like, I mean, Hugo Weaving just as a human person is just, he's just one of these people who you just look at his face and you go, yeah, it's a cool guy. And you hear him speaking, you go, yeah, he's cool.
Yeah,
But he's like that. And then
yeah,
Agent Smith, there's
yeah,
just something about him. You're just watching him go, and you're like, there's like antagonists that
yeah.
you're not supposed to like, and you don't let them be. You fucking love him. He's great. Like, Agent Smith is one of them. Absolutely love The Matrix. Great film.
Yeah, I think Hugo Weaving he has just been in. I mean, you're talking, obviously, you're sitting there with Lord of the Rings, greatest movies of all time, and I won't hear anything about it. Matrix, you're talking Marvel, because he was at Red Skull. He's been in. He was in the Transformers movies, which are awful, but he was, in that, like, he has just been in like he has just done some incredible like stuff, and I've seen the scenes, like the choreography, or the chore, as I call it.
Oh, the core.
The chore between like when they're doing like their fights, and again, I'm not sitting here like, wow, Hugo Weaving's really great at punching, but again, it's still like
he's got some great punches on him. Let me see them slaps, boy.
I think from what from everything I've seen, it is obviously like it's undoubtedly like groundbreaking in every sense. And I do need to go because there's a new Matrix coming out next year.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah,
that. I don't know how I feel about that.
the Matrix 4 Reloaded or
Oh,
something.
it's
It'll be
four.
called
It's like a
something like
direct
that,
continuation. Oh, now
or maybe it is. Yeah,
that's an interesting one. That
because
actually
there's
no, but
been
that
three
does ring a
Matrixes,
bell.
right?
Yeah. So one was fantastic. Two, I was gonna say it's all right, but I think that the only reason I think it's cool is because of nostalgia. And then three, I was
Mm.
at an age where I was able to recognize a terrible movie when I saw it. So like
Yeah,
two
yeah.
and three,
It's three.
don't worry about them. So like I'm interested to see it because like if it's a four, then it's a direct continuation. I'll still have like Keanu Reeves in it, which will be interesting
Mm.
to see because I reckon he'll go into it
Maybe
with a different mindset because obviously he's had the old John Wick thing, you know.
yeah, yeah. Maybe I'll just go and see that and not watch the other three just to create
Oh,
myself
oh
another.
yeah, that'll be an interesting take.
Uh, but yeah, no, grand. So I need to go and watch The Matrix. So what we'll do is, before the next one, I'll watch The Matrix. You watch Goodfellas, and then we'll just do a whole podcast on how
On our
overrated
thoughts.
they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, grand. So, right, next one on
Give me
my
it. Give
list.
me it.
All right. Um, listen. At the end of the day, right, it's
Hmm.
the circle of life, really. You know.
Oh, we've got another snap.
Oh! Oh!
Oh!
Okay, so we've got how many is that? We've got to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so we have 8 on the list. But yeah, The Lion King. I mean, came out in 1994, which was an incredible year for movies, by the way. Just like, and again,
And an
I'm not
incredible year
saying
for person production.
that. Yeah, because I mean, I was like, that's the thing. I'm not saying that our births were, you know, responsible for these, but is it a coincidence? Is it how can it be a coincidence that the year that we're born, these incredible movies come out? And again, this similar to Toy Story. This is one of my earliest memories of film. Like I think my
Mm.
mom was telling me that they would like I was watching this from when I like popped out. You know what I mean? It was just on, um, and it was. I think it's probably the greatest animated movie of all time. At that time, like Disney had went through a period where they weren't really bringing out stuff that was amazing for the last
Oh
kind of
yeah.
10 years. And then The Lion King came, and then it just absolutely set off this other new
I'm
revised
actually
age.
I think that The Lion King was also supposed to be their sort of minor film for that year
Yeah, it
as
was the
well.
B. It was the B team, like because the A
Yeah.
team was working on Pocahontas, I believe, and then the dregs, like whoever left, they're like, oh, what can we do, boss? And they're like, oh, just go in a room and make.
I like how these guys were in the 1920s.
Yeah.
What can
What
we
are we
do,
gonna do,
boss?
boss?
I'm gonna go down and make me a film about lions who live in
Yeah.
who can speak
And
and sing.
I know they were just pretty much like they're like just go in a room and do whatever the hell you want. Like so, then they went and then they made that. I think the intro was all that they made, you know, to show off like the trailer and stuff.
Yeah.
And everybody saw that and were like, "Get this done. This is gonna be massive. This is gonna be like, you know, I mean." It nearly grossed $1 billion, and when you think about like the time as well.
Yeah, like
Like,
inflation adjusted and all that sort of
yeah,
thing. That's
like
got to be.
the songs are incredible. I think the story is incredible.
Oh yeah.
It's and it's you know you the characters
I
are so well written. You
the
know?
I mean I love it. I completely agree on all points. In fact, you mentioned earlier you do think it's the greatest film of all time, and anybody who's not just listening but also watching might have seen me kind of go like like sort of looking up in the air, sort of thinking about it. But the reason I was thinking about it was, is there anything I would actually place above The Lion King? And absolutely not. It is the best animated film of all
Yeah.
time. Like it's
Oh,
it's
yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah. And I think it was again. It was a bench set. It set the bench for like what is a good animated movie. You know what I mean?
Oh
And
yeah.
a lot of the great, again, I'm talking about my love for Frozen, which I know is not animated, but kind of coming out of that sort of era, it's all coming from looking at how well the story was done, how incredible the songs were, like getting Big Elton John in. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just getting him in, and I think there was a famous like African choir they got in as well to do a lot of the stuff as well, and like the music was incredible. I mean, setting aside the obvious Nala and Simba incest, which listen, it's
yeah.
the lion, it's the
Getting
Lion Kingdom,
getting
right?
David Attenborough in here, he would be like, yeah, they
Yeah,
cousins. Well, they're half brother and sister. Actually, good point. Like, I
they'd
mean,
be, yeah.
it's
Well, I mean, they'd be siblings because how? I mean, not to get political, Jack, but in the Lion Pride, you've obviously got your kind of your big alpha male, and
yeah,
he is just breeding
top
about.
shagger.
He is he
Yeah,
is he is top shagger.
yeah.
He is sowing his seed, and all of those females that are like around there, all the children they have should, well, most likely be his. You know, I mean, again, I don't know. He seems to obviously put a lot of emphasis on Simba, which, again, if you're a father, look after all your
Actually, yeah,
kids, not
yeah,
just
that's
one.
that's a
Like,
really good point. Actually,
yeah,
see from the perspective of all the other lionesses, even like
yeah,
especially like Nala, whose ma has Nala's the same age as Simba or like adjacent in any way, and it's like Mufasa don't give a shit. He's just
yeah,
here for Simba, and that's it. And he must kind
yeah.
of feel kind of shit from the perspective of the other lioness. Is Mufasa the bad guy? Is maybe is Scar
Yeah.
maybe secretly like wanting? Is Scar maybe secretly like the
He was
he's
a
wanting
great
to
father.
overthrow the
He was a great father
monarchy. He's
figure.
wanting
Like, yeah,
he's a great father figure. He's wanting to overthrow the monarchy. Really, he's just wanting a more equitable. He is actually. He's wanting to help out the hyenas. I mean, he didn't perform it very well, but really, I would actually argue that Scar's
yeah,
intentions were definitely the intentions of a good guy. I mean, gotta do a little bit of
yeah,
fratricide, regicide to get there, but you know, you know the ends justify the means. I mean, he fucked it up because he's an incompetent
yeah,
bastard. But
yeah.
like,
Yeah, yeah. He could have done a little bit of help on the kind of agricultural growth side of it, because obviously when Simba goes back,
Scar's
the place just
agriculture
is
policies are
obviously
shocking.
yeah. But for all we know, he might have been a really good dad to all the kids that Mufasa just. And then also, Simba's like the only boy cub that we see, and does that again? Is that I again? I don't know the hierarchy, political, agenda of Pride of Lions, but
I was actually sorry. Continue.
but like, has he? I wonder, has he like maybe ate his like boy children? Like,
I I mean, I'm no lionologist, but but I
are you
have
not?
heard, but I have heard somewhere that there is a little bit of cub murder somewhere, but I think that's only from competitive males. Like it's like,
Right,
well,
right.
I'm Shagger now. I'm on Eat Your Babies, which is kind
As
of
we know, that
fucked up when you
works.
think about
Yeah,
it.
I
But
mean,
like,
it's so romantic.
I'm sorry, it's just the way the discourse about the Lion King is going. It made me genuinely think. This is what I was laughing there, is because I was like, I wonder what the politics of Pride Rock are. I wonder what like the political
Yeah,
system they have in place is. Like,
yeah.
not just for the lions, but like. What do the gazelles think of this whole situation? Like, I know it's a
Well, they're an
monarchy and
oppressive.
that.
Yeah. The lions are like an oppressive force because they're eating them, and then when Simba's like, "Oh, but what do the gazelles get out of it?" It's like, "Well, Simba, when we die, we turn into grass, and they can eat it." It's like bullshit. That is
Yeah,
that again, and I hate to get political, Jack, but I'm going there. Like the
we're getting
oppression
deep into the
of
Lion King politics.
these gazelles, and do you know what? Right, they're all forced to go to this ceremony, right, of Simba, and they're coming and they're being like, right, yeah, we're celebrating this person that's gonna come and eat us and gonna kill us. Thank God he is here.
Woo! Here's
Woohoo! Great, great. Like,
I
you know,
briefly disappeared there.
no,
I'm
you're
still
good.
listening.
It's like woohoo for our next oppressive. It's like, I mean, listen, we're not too far away from North Korea in here. You know what I mean? Like, this is. But saying everything that we've just spoke about there, it's a great movie.
Oh, it's
And
fantastic.
I think that I've maybe delved a little bit too far into it, but it's a terrific movie. So it's perfect. Right. What have you what do you have up next? What have you got to try and get us to 10 films?
Well, I've got a couple. Well, I say a couple. I've got three,
Okay.
which is actually more than a couple. But to me, a couple is anywhere between 2 and 7. So,
Right.
um, I'm trying to think. I have two with the same main flavor actor who's already appeared on this list as well. I'm going to choose one of them.
Oh.
And so,
Yes, go for it.
do you? Okay, quick question, Jack. Do you prefer violence or stress?
You sound like my therapist. I mean, um, depends depends what day it is, really. I mean, we're talking probably. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go stress. Let's say
You're gonna
stress.
go for stress. Okay. So let's talk about a film that's, I do love a film that's based on a true story. Um, Oftentimes true stories are not particularly interesting. But this one's what we call a doozy. So I'm talking this happened. I'm talking people in space. I'm talking extreme
Ooh.
stress. I'm talking Tom Hanks and Kevin Bacon. I'm
Yes,
talking,
home
yeah,
tanks.
Hom Tanks and Bevan Caken. Oh, he caking it up. Um, uh, we're talking a huge amount of disappointment for the characters involved, a lot of stress. We're talking specky creativity and a faithfulness to science that only that a specky person such as myself can do appreciate. And
Hmm.
my words are kind of not turning into real words anymore, but that's where we are. Um, you got any little inklings as to what flavor this is?
I I think it is either Pulp Fiction or Apollo 13.
It's Pulp Fiction. No, we got our
Yeah.
Apollo 13s. Yes,
I
it's an Apollo
fucking
13.
love this movie. I
It
love
is
this movie. I'm
fantastic.
really
Is it
sad
a
that I didn't put
snap?
this in my list.
Oh no, I'm happy you didn't put it on the list
No,
because
that's what I said. I'm
we've got a
sad.
lot of clashes. um,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
no, it's a fantastic film. I've got I must confess, it actually wasn't in my original list, but this is one of my little backup ones for snaps. Um,
Oh,
but it was top of the list for
oh.
backup snaps. So like, I mean, we're
Grand.
we're still in a good one. It's just fantastic. Like I'm pretty sure I saw it when I was
Yeah.
like fairly little. But I didn't have much of an interest in it because, like, see, when it comes to like dramas and especially like sort of stressful dramas, and I guess a film like Apollo 13, you show that to a 7-year-old and they're going to be like, "Cool space," and then after 10 minutes, they're going to be like, "Right, can I watch something else?" But this is
Yeah, yeah,
this
yeah.
this film. I watched it again, like as an adult, maybe about only a year ago. Um, and I was like, I can't believe I haven't seen this film, like, as an adult, because it's right up my street.
Mm.
And I watched it and I was like, huh, like, how when people say their expectations were low and they're still disappointed? My expectations were really, really high for this, and I was still fucking blown away. Like I was
Ah.
I loved this film. It's just one of those things where, like, it's one of those films actually where you kind of like, you watch it and then you go into the Wikipedia article after it, like for the actual event, and you go like, okay, so how much of this film is actually, obviously any film is going to take,
Mhm.
dramatic liberty on certain things, but like
Yeah.
just the actual sequence of events and what they had to do, even like when they had to like fix that intake and all that sort of thing. and they had to use like
Mm.
just stuff on the ship and all that sort of thing. They had to work that out at NASA and then tell them how to do it and all that sort of thing. Oh, it's so good. Like, I mean, that happened. That was real, and that's what they had
Mm.
to do. And you're just sitting thinking, looking at these characters, going, "Oh man, that is a pretty deeply terrible situation to be in." But also, like, fuck, that's cool. Like, I mean, I think going to space.
Oh, yeah.
I love any film that takes place in space, with the exception of Gravity. I didn't like that film, but
Mm.
see, just like something about space gives me such do you know what I said? Gives me such, and my brain is finishing that sentence with a fucking hard on, and I don't want to say that, but I have now, so have that. Um, but I mean, there's the space. I love space. I'm like that little portal
Yeah.
core that
Yeah.
lives around,
Yeah.
just screams space all the time. I love that shit. I actually look out the window right now, and there's a big, beautiful moon, and I'm like, huh, there was some folk on that, and that gives me like a little 10 minutes of like, yes, love that shit. Look at that moon. Oof. You know,
That keeps you warm at night, you know.
it
That really.
does.
No, I'm the same as you, and I think the another thing is, so obviously, you know, you're a very smart gentleman, if I do say so
Oh,
myself.
thank you.
And my for me, my problem has always been that it fascinates me so much, and I love it, and I was never smart enough to. I've got one of my best friends from back home. He did like astrophysics at university, and
Mm.
he just I would just ask him about shit, like really dumb shit. You know what I mean? Just
Mm.
like how does the moon stay up there? Like what's going
Yeah.
on here? And then he will actually, or I'll ask him about black holes or something, and
Yeah.
he'll give me and my brain doesn't really understand it, but I enjoy it. And exactly what you're saying there, I think the realism of that movie, because obviously I liked. Oh God, what a great movie! I really wish I'd put that in, because that is actually one of my favorites. Like I really liked how there's the start of the movie, and you know people aren't really caring because they're like they've fallen out of that
Yeah.
love with, because it was almost, you know, washed away how incredible a feat it is for us to go to space.
Yeah.
And they're like, right, oh, this is the 13th time we've seen it. We're not even putting it on TV. And then for that to happen, it was just it was, you know, and again, I don't know how much creative liberties were taken, but it was crying out to obviously be made into a movie, because it's a movie within itself, like what happened. And like, and you've got big Tom Shanks in it, and he's just and Kevin Bacon, and they're just having a really stressful time, and it did give me a lot of like anxiety and stress watching it, because I was like, space, as much as I love it, terrifies me. Like
Oh, deeply
I
terrifying. I actually like it makes me sad that I will likely never ever be in space.
oh, don't
But I
say that.
also, oh well, I mean, no, that's just kind of like it's just a fact. I can't think of
Listen,
any reason I would ever want to go into. Jeff will shoot me up.
Jeff Bezos, listen, instead of paying his employer, his employees, right, and paying his tax, he'll send you up to space, mate.
He'll send me up to space.
Don't
Well,
even
I
worry
mean,
about it. Don't even
I
worry about it.
in any case, getting up to space, I can't think of anything I would actually enjoy less. I am terrified of heights. I'm terrified
Oh,
of flying. Yeah, like I'm terrified of heights. I'm terrified of
yeah,
flying.
you
Like
should
even
know.
getting into a simple like flight somewhere. Like I'm fine when we're cruising. Take off. I'm like holding onto my seat, like sat back,
Mm.
and I'm like just like really, 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 really hating it. Like, see the idea of like even the training to go to space, where they
Yeah.
get the vomit comet to do the pure like parabolic flight path and all that sort of thing, makes you weightless. I would be like, huh, I'm weightless and about to die. Fantastic. Like I would be suffering the entire time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I want to go to space. I want to go
Sorry,
to
I just.
space.
So how are you on, like, I don't know, an escalator? How do you deal with an escalator? Are you alright with an
Oh,
escalator?
an escalator, fine. Like a lift, I'm okay. See, the thing is, right? Whenever I'm as deeply terrified of something as I am as heights, I kind of also have a little bit of morbid curiosity about it. And so like
Yeah,
every
yeah,
time I'm
yeah.
up somewhere, I quite like going up on high things. And when I go up like, you know, like for example, an extraordinarily high thing, I think the tallest thing I've been up was the Eiffel Tower. And I was at the top of it, and I was like absolutely like shitting my pants. There was a fully
Yeah.
formed jobby in my bockies, and I was just caught in the and but at the same time, I was looking about and I was like, whoa, and I was like, poking my head over it. And, oh
Yeah.
my god, my girlfriend at the time, like, what she would do is she would put her phone. This actually made me feel worse than the heights. She wanted to take a picture, but didn't want to like have any of the sort of grating in the way, and so like she put her
Yeah.
phone
Yeah.
through the grating to take the picture.
No. No.
And like I realized that day that my fear of heights is less than my phone anxiety. Like, what I mean? You just like, you're gonna drop your phone.
Oh, yeah.
I like, it was hanging over the fucking side of the Eiffel Tower, and she was just like, "What? What's wrong with it?" I was like, "Ah, no, stop it!" Like, because that just
I think,
slice somebody in half at the bottom as well.
yeah, it would. It would just go through someone's fucking skull. Like, it would just like obliterate them. I'm pretty sure that's probably, if you got caught doing that, you'd probably be getting a little French rap on the knuckles. You know what I mean? Whatever that entails.
French SWAT is gonna
But
burst
no,
through the
I
doors.
I know. I really wish I'd put that in my list because I really do love that movie, and that is a great pick. That is a great. All right, so I think we've got 9 in there. I'm pretty sure. Wait, let me have a wee count. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we've got 9. Um, I know we're running a little bit over time, and imagine it's bedtime for us almost. So I've got Jack. I've got one more, you know, possible selection if that's okay with you.
Yes, absolutely.
And again, it's a movie that I don't I don't know if you've heard of it. It's pretty underground.
It's a spicy one.
It's a spicy. Um, again, another 1994. Um, you've got you've got your Bruce Willis's, you've got your Sam Jacksons, you've got your John Travoltas, you've got big feet loving Tarantino in it.
Now,
Um,
there's I think I might have an inkling as to what film it might be. Could
Fight
it
Club.
perhaps be Armageddon?
A bootleg version of Armageddon.
It's got to be Pulp Fiction.
It's got yeah. Listen,
It's got to be Pulp
I,
Fiction.
I was deliberately say it was very early on my list before, but I was like, I need to save this for the anticipation, so that the two people that are still listening to this, probably my mum and your mum, probably, are like, when are they going to talk about Pulp Fiction? So yeah, I don't know if you've got that on your list as well, or if that's
I strategically avoided it because I knew that it was going to be in your
yeah,
list because
yeah.
everybody agrees Pulp
Yeah,
Fiction.
yeah. It's to be honest, it doesn't really need an awful lot said about it in terms of because it's been absolutely talked to death. But I think that is the peak of like Tarantino film because again, I am a fan. It can be a bit hit or miss for me. Some of
Oh
the stuff,
yeah.
and there's some stuff he'll make and do, and I'm a bit like, it's a bit, but. I just think I rewatch it every few years, and it's again that thing of remembering this is terrific. It's a, it's a
Yeah.
it's a huge swing because again it's one of those it's an artistic movie that
Mm.
it could be seen as being a bit too out there, a little bit too like jumpy about the place, but it just
Yeah.
because there's obviously I was about to say branching timelines. We're not like watching Marvel, but like
Right.
the time jumps in it and how it all does kind of connect even though it doesn't and it's just so entertaining. Like I feel like nowadays to try and get something like that had so much going on, you'd have to go and watch like a series, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, because no one would be bold enough to go and put, apart from maybe Tarantino, to put that much into a movie and make it work.
Yeah. I one this is perhaps a little vulgar, and I know I've been very restrained so far. Um, but but like, one of the things that I do appreciate about that film is the fact that people need to take a shit sometimes, And that's not
Yeah,
captured as
yeah,
beautifully in so many films. But it's just the fact that sometimes Vincent,
yeah.
especially, sometimes needs to go take a shit, and I appreciate that about
Yeah.
him. I think that's a beautiful character trait. Is that like, I like the fact that like the only character that I can think of to my head where like a recurring thing about him is that he needs to go for a shit sometimes, as we all do now. That's a relatable trait. He ends
Mhm.
up getting killed by
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
That's his downfall. Like,
yeah,
what's your critical weakness? The
yeah.
fact that you got to take a jobby.
I feel like that is great a great point, and I think I think it's funny because obviously it's one of those movies very similar to Fight Club or Blade Runner, where movie students have ripped it to shreds and done essays and essays upon it. But I would love to know if any of them have delved in as deeply as we have about
The
you
jobbies.
know. th- This is when this is I knew this was going to happen. I knew we would get here. But you're right. You're right, and it's it's terrific. There's to be honest, I feel like it sounds a bit of a cop out. There's not much I can actually say about it because one, it's already been said, and two, it's just brilliant. Like it's just what I mean.
One of the things that I think is so interesting about it, and I think Tarantino does this really, really well in general, but I think Pulp Fiction, I think, is a complete mastery of it, is conversation. Because like
Yes.
in most films, any sort of dialogue has some sort of purpose. It's gonna further the storyline, or I mean, in a lot of well, in a lot of the, I would say, well, I mean, most of the dialogue in Pulp Fiction does that too. But like sometimes there'll just be a chat between the characters that serves no purpose other than to just be a wee chat. And for example, like
Yeah.
we were talking very, very Tarantino subject matter, but they're talking about the sort of the not so much ethics, but the whole sort of vibe around a foot massage. Like, what does a foot massage mean and all that sort of thing? And the way they were sort of discussing that, and
Yeah.
there was a
Yeah.
lot of sort of like discourse around that. But like, you can just sort of like when you're having that sort of conversation, like that sort of conversation just seems really, really organic. It seems like it's
Hmm.
not something that's put in the film to to further a plot or even necessarily develop the characters that much. It's just there to be there,
Hmm.
and I like that. I really like that
Yeah.
about Pulp Fiction in particular. Again, it really applies to pretty much all of Tarantino's work, but I think in Pulp Fiction it really, really works.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely, you're right, and it's conversation wise because the characters are just so intriguing and the dialogue is perfect. It does. You're happy to sit and just watch a conversation between them having a burger. You know what I mean? And you're like,
Yeah.
this is the greatest shit I've ever seen. Like,
This
like,
is some serious gourmet
and he's.
shit.
It was hard to not put it in there. I almost didn't put it in either because I was like, I bet you Jack will probably put it in. But then I was like, I'll put it in there just so so it's in there because it'd be hard to not put it in there. So after that, I'm sorry if I did have a couple more, and I think you've got a couple more, but I'm aware of time, and
Yes.
um, we've got a list of 10 there, right? And
Hmm.
if you are happy enough, I think it would be good for
let's
us to
let's totally
rank
do
rank
it.
them. Right. So
Actually, wait,
let
can,
me.
can, can I have
Oh,
the list of them so far?
yes, I will read out this list for you and for my mum who's listening. Okay. Hi, mum. You should be in bed right now. It's far too late. Um, so we've got Toy Story.
Uh-huh.
We have Fight Club.
Uh-huh.
We've got Shawshank,
Uh-huh.
The Mummy,
Mm-hmm.
Train Spotting,
Yep.
Goodfellas,
Yes.
Matrix,
Matrix,
Lion King,
Lion King,
Apollo 13,
13,
and Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction.
Grant. So that is our list. So right off the bat, right? Because we don't need to do any vetoes because we've got 10 there, so it's grand. I am happy enough, right, to put the Mummy at 10th because listen, as much as I love it, I know that when you put that in a list with, with like Shawshank and Goodfellas and Fight Club, if it was to go above any of them, I would, I would understand the uproar. So I'm willing to take the hit and put the Mummy at 10. Just to get that ball rolling. I'm happy enough to take that. But that's all I'm
If
giving you,
we
right?
if we Mummy at 10, right? How
Yeah.
about just for the sake of helping us through the process,
Mm.
how about what we do is we kind of put it in a top tier and a bottom tier of this list? Because I'm not going to be able to
Okay.
tell you the top, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But I'm going to tell you if something's top 5. You know,
Okay. Okay. Okay.
so
Okay.
I'm going to get your vibes off of this, right? Just
Okay.
just your vibes first. Okay, you put Mummy at 10. Do you think
Mhm.
Toy Story is a top 5 or a bottom 5?
I think Toy Story is a top 5, personally.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna give neutral reactions to every single one of these just to.
No! Please give
what?
me,
What?
I need.
What about Fight Club, Jack? What do you think about Fight Club?
Oh, this is difficult. Because I'm gonna end
I'm
up putting
really
them all
enjoying
in the
this.
top 5. I think Fight Club probably does have to be top tier. It's gonna,
Okay. Okay. That's interesting. That's.
I
what?
hate
What about the
this.
Shawshank Redemption, Jack? What are you saying about that?
Listen. That's gonna have to be top tier as well. Like we can't,
Hmm.
Don't worry,
That's
I
good.
will put some.
There's a lot of top tiers here, but
I will put something else in the
okay,
bottom tier. I've got
okay.
plenty.
So just in my natural list that I've written, Mummy's next. So Mummy's bottom tier at least. That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's a good place to put it.
yeah.
Train spotting.
don't don't get mad at me. I think that might have to be in the bottom tier. But I would say if it is like rimming the top 5. You know what I mean? It's like
I'm
that
sorry.
one do
What?
it for you.
It's watting the top
It,
5.
it's on the edge. It's on the periphery. So it would be like for me. I think it would be, I mean, sitting there at like a strong 6, just because of what
Okay.
else we've got in there. But that's
Yeah,
that's what I'm.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
I think that's a. What about your Goodfellas, Jack? That's
I'll put that in the bottom tier.
all right.
I'll put that in
Okay.
the bottom tier. And listen, if you've got anything to fucking say about that, Joe Pesci will be round your house, right? So I don't want to hear any guff about it, right?
One of the really one of the things I like about it is the fact that despite me giving a neutral yet really really horrifying
Yeah.
reaction to every single one of them, like you're kind of like really needing to justify everything that's going on here, and I'm just having a great time with it.
This is like reverse psychology. Like this is really doing stuff to me that's
So
upsetting. So
I'll
thank you.
combine it with ASMR, right? So Jack, what do you think
No,
about
stop.
the Matrix? What about the
Um,
Matrix, Jack?
just for that, it's going in the fucking lower tier, mate. It's getting shoved
Okay.
down there,
Well, I
right?
know you hadn't
Just
seen it,
because
but
I've not seen it,
that's
and
an
I'm sure,
interesting. I mean,
and
fair enough.
in my opinion, if I've not seen it, it's not worth seeing. So it's getting put in the top of the bottom tier. I'm afraid.
Yeah, fair enough. Uh, what about
I'd
just in
imagine things like that.
my shorthand writing, I have written Limk, but it does mean Lion King.
Right, I think that's got to be a top. That's got to be a toppy. You know,
Okay, yeah,
I
yeah,
think
I see.
again, I'm saying
Yeah.
all this. You can absolutely disagree with me, but if you do, then yeah, well, you'll
Okay,
find
no,
out.
no,
You'll
well,
find out.
currently you don't know my takes on each of these.
I
what
don't.
about
I
Pulp
just don't
13?
care.
I don't give a shit.
I'm gonna go for. Even though I would like to put it in top tier, I think bottom tier.
Okay, okay, that's interesting.
Sorry, home tanks. Sorry, pal.
And Pulp Fiction, of all things.
I think that's got to be top. I think that's got to be in the top. You know.
Wow, do you know what? I am actually quite surprised that you managed to like brain out a 5 and 5 there. Because in that
I know.
situation, I would have had like six tops and
Yeah, yeah,
four
yeah, yeah. Well,
like that.
it was difficult because like I think for me, Train Spotting was the one that I felt the worst about not putting in that top tier. But when I was looking at what we again, obviously need to see what you think as well. Um, but I mean, even though we don't care, um, you know, sorry, I'm just getting really defensive now. Um, but that was the one for me. I was like, I felt bad about not putting that in the top five. But when I'm sitting there looking at the ones that I had, this like like your Toy Story, Fight Club, Shawshank, Lion King, Pulp Fiction, like they're big
Mhm.
hitters. You know what I mean? So
I'm gonna. So you might have noticed that I very deliberately left a fairly long pause after that end of that sentence there, and that was to allow it to be very easily jump cut because I'm about to piss my pants and I very
yes,
much need to
go
pee.
for a pee.
A few moments later.
With somebody who loves me, I wanna dance. Oh, you're back, Grant. I
I
was.
like that oh god oh.
We'll give it we'll give it a 3, 2, 1, and then can smash cut in and can be like, yeah, that was a really interesting point you just made.
I'm
Okay,
gonna just lean into the fact that it's a jump cut.
okay, right. 3, 2, 1, action.
Yeah, man, it was a really interesting point that you just made. Right, only a couple of seconds ago,
Yeah,
because there wasn't any sort of massive period of time where both I
no,
P'd and a massive moth got into my room.
no, that's quite an incident. To be fair, that's quite an incident.
It's quite an
Um,
incident that didn't happen. You know, it's non-existent. Um,
uh,
um, my if I was to do the sort of ratings myself though, like the sort of top five, bottom five. See, right, okay. I'm looking at this little list. I've written it in front of me. Any YouTube peoples who can see in 3D my and what I've got going on here. I've got this little sort of bit of paper in front of me that I'm trying to work out what's going on. And do you know Toy Story? I'm just going to go through it sequentially. Toy Story, just for the sake of contrarianism and to make you mad at me, I don't know. I think that's going to be a bottom of the.
ooh, ooh.
Yeah.
I suppose I could I could, you know, deal with that if the Lion King was still in the top five because I feel like there needs to be that sort of for me it would be that representation of you know
I mean, obviously, not to say that Toy Story is bad because it's fantastic. It's childhood defining for me. Like it's
Mhm.
fantastic. I love it. I've got my buzz my Buzzy and Wood, my Woody and Buzz.
that's another channel, mate.
Fight Club. I get again, not to be contrarian, but I'm putting that in my bottom five. And actually, when you put that in your
Wow,
top five, I actually was that was what like that isn't just to be controversial. That was always in my bottom five. I love it. Again, I love it. I mean, this is our top 10,
wow,
but like that's that wow.
Hmm.
But that's my
wow.
bottom five. Shawshank, no doubt about it. That's top. You like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
can't argue with that. Mummy, that's also my bottom. Please don't take that as a soundbite.
Mate, that's going on the promo. So the mummy, the mummy, it's in my bottom. So it's up there
well,
now on the internet
yep,
forever.
that's it. That's gonna haunt me for the rest of my life. Fantastic. Train spotting, that's got to be top. Like there's a reason I recited that
Yeah, yeah,
entire
yeah.
Scots prayer.
I definitely makes. I think yeah. Now you've definitely given me the. I mean, you put so much effort into it, and there's definitely space for it in the top five now. I felt I knew in my heart I was like I'm putting this in my bottom tier, but I shouldn't be. You know. I was putting it in my
Mm.
bottom, and it should be going in my
You were
bottom.
putting train spotting in your bottom.
Yeah.
Just like renting in the suppository.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
but
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
now you're going to be falling into a toilet and swimming through a world. It's going to be beautiful.
It is going to be
Why has
beautiful.
there always got to be a manky toilet scene in a train spotting film? But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know.
Goodfellas, I have no choice but to put it in my bottom. I can't stop saying it like that.
I'm gonna put some good fellas in my bottom. You know, like it's just.
You know what? As long as it's the good ones, everyone's happy.
Yeah, as long as it's the good fellas.
I think actually, we're there. Just counting this up: 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I have one more. I have one more thing that I can put in my bottom. I have to sort of make sure it's going up. But I mean, in any case, Matrix gotta be top. I love the Matrix. That's in my top 5. No bother about that. Lion King also no question top 5. No problems there. Apollo 13. Between Apollo 13 and Pulp Fiction, Apollo 13's in the bottom, and Pulp
Right.
Fiction's in the top.
Yeah. So, from that, what I've gathered is that the ones that are definitely that we both agree on, you've got Shawshank, Lion King, Train Spotting, Pulp Fiction. Are those 4? Those are 4 that we both are in
Yeah.
so cahoots
if
with.
if I'm making a top and a bottoms box, I of course put myself in the bottoms box. Oh no, I meant to write top and bottom, but I wrote top and box. But it's like my brother. He was writing a birthday card to one of his pals, and he's like, "I'm going to put this in my really nice handwriting." He wrote handwriting birthday. That just fucking gets me. He's an idiot. But yeah. Anyway, we both agree that Shawshank is in the top. We both agree that Mummy
Yeah.
is in the bottom. You put it at 10. I'm just going to agree with you there, to be honest. It's been that long since
Yeah.
I've seen it. It's a great film, but it's been that long since I've seen it. I don't have
Yeah.
any real feelings about it. We both agree that Goodfellas is in the bottom. Again, I'm just taking your word for it, really, there. We both agree that The Lion King's in the top. We both agree that Apollo 13's in the bottom. And both agree that Pulp Fiction's in the top. So, if I write that down...
So I think it's like that kind of 5th place is what is what, because I think you're saying The Matrix. I don't really have any feelings towards it in terms of, I understand its grandeur, and I'm trying to not be biased as well. The fact that I've not watched it, and I know that it did have significance. What I would argue is that if I was choosing between like Fight Club and The Matrix, and not just because I've not watched The Matrix, like I don't know. I mean, again, right? This for me, this is the defining factor, right? And I'm going to ask you this, and I need you to be honest with me, right?
Okay.
Does The Matrix have meatloaf with tits? Now, be honest with me. Does it?
Whether. So, okay, not on screen. I can't say on screen. But when was Fight Club made? I've got this. So Fight Club was 1999. The Matrix was also 1999. Oh man. Okay, so depending on which one, actually no, Matrix is based in 1999. So whether Fight Club came out before or after it, it happened within the context of that film, and therefore within the Matrix, Meatloaf with Tits exists, even as part of a film. So I would say that canonically, yes. By some bullshit
screen.
Like on screen, Meatloaf with Tits is extremely powerful. That's like that's something that not a lot of films can say they have. I know you haven't seen The Matrix, but of the two of them, I would genuinely place The Matrix above Fight Club. Perhaps though, because The Matrix for me, I have known that for much longer than Fight Club. You know, like
Mhm.
I actually saw that as some. I think I was like I want to be 10, between 10 and 12, um, when I saw that. Whereas Fight Club, I was between 18 and 20 when I first saw it. So
Aye.
like I guess it has that sort of nostalgia factor for me. And there's also literally you have nothing to base it off of. So I don't know. I don't know.
I
Fight
listen.
Club.
I would be willing. I'd be willing to have Matrix in the top five because even though I've not seen it, I'm you. I can tell that it's obviously good because I know so much about it and I know the story, and that's when you know that it's obviously good because and so as much as it would pain me, and to be honest, I'm saying this, I don't really like. Listen, I like Fight Club, but it's not like I'm sitting here like crying over it. Like I don't like. I don't go to bed. I'd be more stressed out if it was like The Lion King or Shawshank not getting put in the top five. But like, I would be happy enough for Matrix to be in it as long as Fight Club could be like six. Could be
Oh
again
yeah,
rimming the top five. You know what I mean?
rimming the top five. Well, yes, and to be honest, I think also just upon review, see just like another one, just a total other one that could be. I mean, theoretically, both The Matrix and Fight Club could make it to the top five at this point, but I do think that my placement of Toy Story in the bottom five is probably a bit unfair. It it probably, in fact, nay, certainly would be deserved of the top five.
Like, I'm trying to think what story do I enjoy more, and I think I think of The Lion King more fondly than Toy Story, even though I love Toy Story. And to be honest, I think that The Lion King would have to be in the top five personally. So for me,
Well,
uh, like,
I
or what?
I
What do you
I, I think. Well, I mean, I think the Lion King is like not even threatened in the top five. I
Yeah,
think that
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah,
very,
yeah, yeah.
very safely in the top five. But oh, actually, that's a good point. Well, I think both the Lion King and Toy Story could be in the top five, but then that means that we only have one more top five place to award.
Well, because as it stands, what I've got written in front of me right now is that like the top five as it stands would be not in order, but like Shawshank, Lion King, Pulp Fiction, Train Spotting, and The Matrix.
Oh, right, okay. So
Uh,
I hadn't written Trainspotting, but I had argued for it being in the top five instead of
yeah.
it. So I mean, I'm happy with it being there. Well, in that case, we do only have the one place for it. Now, Matrix. I don't know. Like, I mean, that's the thing. If there's only one more space for the top five, does it go to the Matrix when it's got, it's got. I mean, it's got a few others to sort of contend with. Whether I'm just right. I'm gonna cross these out because I'm looking at my big list and I've realized I've got them written in two places and now I'm getting confused. So that
um,
can go. That can go.
um, again, like I say, I would be, I'd, I, I would be happy enough with the Matrix in the top five, and I imagine that a lot of people, I say a lot of people listening, the person listening would probably also. I don't know if my mum's seen the Matrix, but I think she would. If I was thinking about what my mum would prefer, I think she'd probably prefer the Matrix because Fight Club would be a bit too violent for her, right? And my mum is the greatest and smartest, loveliest person I've ever met. So
Well, I mean, Matrix is very much like I mean, it's not like gory or bloody or whatever, but the amount of just people doing their job that get shot to all fuck.
but then that's
There's a lot
fine.
of that.
We've seen that. We've seen, you know
We've
what I
seen
mean?
that.
It's like
So
Fight Club is visceral. Like Jared Leto
it
gets
is.
absolutely
Yeah, he gets wrecked.
kicked to
Which
like
which when I first saw it, I was just like, oh, but now looking back, I'm like, all
yeah.
right.
So how are you feeling? Because like, are you happy with the Matrix being the top five, or would you
So
rather something else be
I
there?
would I personally would I think that if there's one place left in the top five, in my opinion, the Toy Story should be taking that over the Matrix, but only
Okay.
just.
Okay, and
But
and
but what's your take on that? Like, that's
I'm happy enough with that. That is, to be honest, I'm glad that you've came to that conclusion by yourself. You know, and I was hoping, I knew through subconsciously, I was like, Toy Story is getting in there. It might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, but someday, because it's undeniable what it did. And again, being the first, like, first fully, animated like feature, like it's incredible.
yeah.
And so, to be honest, you're sitting there looking at that top five of like Shawshank, Lion King, Pulp Fiction, Train Spotting, and Toy
Hmm.
Story. If that was like on, say that, like, you were going away and those were the only movies you took with you, you'd be happy with that, because
Oh yeah.
that is a really good like selection. You've got the lightheartedness in there. You've also got some like
Yeah.
harrowing stuff. You've got the bit more intense like action stuff with Pulp Fiction. I feel like it, and they're all great movies. They're undeniable. If someone says
Hmm.
they don't like any of these movies, it's like, well, you're wrong, and you should go and live in a cave and not come back. Don't do that. That's just the late night talking. So yeah, that's what I would. Yeah, I think we've got a good list there. Um,
Yeah.
we've got the top tier, we've got the bottom tier. Um, can Would there be a chance of naming one of them as the top? We don't have to go through 1 to 10 because I think that would just be
Ooh.
ridiculous. But one of them, definitely, to finish off this podcast for the listeners to hear what we think is the definitive greatest movie of the 90s. And obviously, it's going to have to be, because it's not going to be The Mummy. So, like, it's going to have to be of Shawshank, Lion King, Pulp Fiction, Train Spotting, and Toy Story. What's, I'm putting you on the
I
spot.
think I think if I was to choose one of them, it would be Shawshank.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
not the film that I would watch every single time.
but it's
Even out of
it's
those top five. In fact, it was one of the ones I would probably watch least out of them, but I think that's because I kinda want to savor it. And you also gotta
yeah,
be in the right mood for it. But
yeah,
it's just such a good film, man. Like, it's
yeah.
just so good. I don't know what it's rated in IMDb, but I'm sure it's like top 10.
Oh yeah, it's. I think it is like up there. I think that and like The Godfather are like the two. But like, yeah, I think so. Just to go through it. So again, we've got like a top one, and then the rest of them are just like tiers. So the best movie of the '90s, Shawshank Redemption. Not really
Hmm.
that much of a surprise, like,
Yeah,
but
well, yeah.
it's hard to argue with it. And then in the rest of the list, of the top tier, we've got The Lion King, Pulp Fiction, Train Spotting, and Toy Story. And then in the bottom five, we've got The Matrix, Fight Club, Goodfellas, Apollo 13, and The Mummy just sneaking in there at number 10. And listen, I think that is that whole list, 10 movies, you'd be happy enough, if that was all the movies you had to watch for this year. That is an excellent selection of movies.
I mean, it's class. Yeah. I mean, it's just so good. I mean, there's some runners up in there.
Yeah. I
Like,
mean, you've got like your
uh,
Forrest Gumps and your,
you
like,
got Forrest Gumps. I also had as my other two backups, which I don't think deserve to be amongst that 10. But my other two backups, these honorable mentions, are Terminator 2,
oh,
because
oh, superb
brilliant
movie.
film,
Superb movie.
and Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery.
Oh, oh.
Right,
You could, you could,
both
you
of
could,
them fantastic.
you could do like a top 20 if you had the time and money, but we have neither. Um, but like, oh, Terminator 2. That didn't even come to my mind. Do you know that? But no, I'm happy
Uh,
enough. I'm not like,
yes, we'll do it
yeah,
all again. Let's.
yeah, scrap it all. Um, but yeah, I think uh, we've we have been on a journey today. I think we have, you know,
Spiritually,
spirit.
metaphorically,
We've
realistically. Sorry, I'm just sort of giving you some adjectives now.
no, that's great. I mean, we've went from Meatloaf's tits to the like the political hierarchy of like a pride of lions, and whether Mufasa ate his children. Like, I think we've really, I think this podcast has a little something for everyone, you know. And I think it's a bit weird me doing a bit of a promo for it after it's finished. But, you know, I would like to, you know, hope that people enjoyed what they heard today. I certainly had a lot of fun, even if no one listened to
Yeah,
this.
I had a lot of fun as well.
No, thank you so much as well, Jack, for
Well,
being
thank you
part
for
of this.
having me.
I'm sure
It's been
that
great as fuck.
I'm sure my horde of TikTok fans will want us to come back and do another top 10, possibly looking at, I don't know, the top 10, I don't know, possible crimes of Rick O'Connell and the Mummy or something like that. You know, what he could have done, like the top 10 theories, like.
Oh man, it's gonna get really, really dark in my head canon there. Like it's
But you know, we will, as I say, if we get commissioned by, you know, Netflix, whoever's buying this podcast, if we get commissioned, we'll definitely be doing another one. Gonna just finish off, you know, asking you to make sure you check out Scenes on Toast on YouTube. So it's just Scenes on Toast. I'm also on Instagram and TikTok on at Scenes on Toast Games. I'm huge on TikTok, massive on TikTok. Like, I don't know if there's anyone bigger than me on TikTok, if I'm being honest. And I don't know if there's anything that you would like to plug yourself, Jack, or, you know, or just to say a big good night to people, or, you know.
you know, I'm gonna say a big old good night. I'm here. My plug also is watch Scenes on Toast. He got me to do a podcast, and it was really fun. I like it.
Yeah, I love that. My plug is that I'm here. And that's what we're all happy with. All right. Well, thank you everyone so much for giving this a listen, and we will be back if we are allowed to come back. If we're not sued or, you know, taken off the internet. So thank you everyone. Make sure you drink plenty of water, get good sleep, and just have a great day. Really, just have a very good day. All right. Okay. Good night. Guten Tag.
Really well.
Is that good night in German? Guten Tag?
Yeah. Guten
Yeah.
Abend.
Guten Abend. Yeah. Why not? Yeah. Okay.